Welcome to the Township, excuse me, of Monroe Zoning Board meeting, November 28, 2023. Please stand to salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, it is hereby announced and shall be entered into the minutes of this meeting that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the following: posted on the bulletin board of the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin boards within the municipal complex, printed, excuse me, in the Home News Tribune on December 30th, 2022, posted on the Monroe Township website, and sent to those individuals who have requested personal notice. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Damiani?
Here.
Mr. Lupo?
Here.
Mr. Masters? Mr. Fussman? Ms. Caratori? Mr. Tanzi?
Here.
Mr. Jaffe?
Here.
Mr. Birdie?
Here.
Mr. Cole?
Here.
Mr. Kenzie?
Here.
Chairman LaFatta?
Here. Okay, just for the record, Mr. Jaffe, Mr. Verdi, and Mr. Cole will be full voting members tonight. Okay, we need the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held from July. Do I have an approval?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Also, I
Yes.
abstain.
Okay, first application, application number BA-5207-21, Collins Land Care LLC. Please come forward. Ready, counsel.
Oh, great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Otto Kaspar, representing the applicant tonight. This is a application for a variance to be allowed to continue a landscaping business subject property. There are also a number of bulk variances, which mainly all are existing at the present time, which our engineer will be addressing. We also have some design waivers that we'll be requesting from the board. Property in question is a property on Ford Street. It is 223 Old Forge Road. If any of you-
Counsel, before you continue, can you just clarify exactly what you're going for? I think there may have been a mistake on the application on the agenda in reference to a minor site plan. Can you just verify that for the record?
Yeah, we're going for a use variance to allow for, well, it says a use variance with bulk variances, and also a site plan for existing.
Okay, so I think that's what we were missing, the site plan. Okay, please continue.
Okay, sure. So we're looking for a use variance to allow to continued use of the property as a mixed use. There's a single-family home. My client, the applicant, lives there along with his family, and there's also a business being operated in the rear of the property, has been for many years, so we're looking for a variance for that. There's also some various bulk variances, which our engineer will present, also some design waivers. I'm going to be calling on, as witnesses tonight, the applicant, Mr. Joseph Gravina, who's the principal of Collins Land Landscape. Okay. And also Mr. Jay Patel from Crest Engineering will be giving our engineering testimony, and our planner, Mr. Mark Remza. I'd like to start, if I might, by having you swear in Mr. Gravina, who is the principal of the applicant.
We're good.
You could raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
Joseph Gravina, Gravina, 223 Old Ford Road, Monroe Township.
All right. Mr. Gravina, how long have you owned the property in question?
I purchased the property in June of 2022.
All right, and who owned the property before you?
Robert Collins.
Robert Collins. And do you know when he bought the property?
I think it was 1998 or 1999 when it was there.
Okay, yes, it was 1998. I have the deed here. Did he operate a landscaping business as soon as he bought the property?
Soon after, within a year after he purchased the property, he started built the pole barn in the back of the property.
And were you working for him at that time?
Started working for Mr. Collins the fall of 1999.
You have to use the mic.
I'm sorry. In the fall of 1999.
And prior to Mr. Collins, do you know who owned this property?
The Vanderveers owned the property before.
And do you know what if they had a business on the property?
I was told that the father had a seed and fertilizer business, something like that. And
All right.
as much as I know really about the
Okay.
previous owner.
Okay. So you worked for Mr. Collins during that entire period of time,
Yes,
and you're familiar with what activities were conducted there.
yes, definitely.
And did there come a time when you bought the business?
Yes, I purchased the business August 2019.
All right. And you also bought the property.
A few years later, yes.
Okay. And during the period of time that you've worked in the business, either as an employee or an owner, has the nature of the business changed at all?
Minimal, very little change.
Okay. What kind of change would have occurred?
I do tree removal now. We didn't do tree removals prior.
Okay.
We did tree removals, but we outsourced it.
Okay.
Now we do it in-house.
Before we go on with that, could you tell us a little bit about the property? It fronts on Old Forge, correct?
Yes.
And what's behind it? What's in the rear of the property?
Rear of the property is Garibaldi Avenue, which is a unimproved road. And behind that is a retention basin for the
Okay.
Dynasty Estates.
So how can you access Garibaldi from Old Forge?
We actually get from Avenue K.
All right. And that's what, one lot down from you?
Yes,
All right. So you turn on Avenue K right and then turn right onto
Garibaldi.
Garibaldi, and then you go down and that accesses your property.
Yes, in the back.
Okay. And is that the way that your employees get onto the property?
Yes.
Okay. And if you look out from the back of your property or second frontage, however you want to characterize it, you said there's a detention pond. What do you see behind your property?
Just the wood line, trees, and the retention basin.
Okay.
Fence around the retention basin.
Okay. So no one lives behind you.
Not directly behind.
Okay.
me.
You look out and it's just open.
Yes, there's a home caddy corner from the rear of my property. The
How
first
far
house,
away would you say that is?
Several hundred feet.
Okay. So basically you're looking out into kind of nothing.
Yes.
Right there. Okay. So tell the board what type of businesses you have on the property. What do you do?
Our primary service is commercial property maintenance. We only do lawn maintenance, property maintenance for commercial properties. As far south as Little Lake Harbor and as far north as Railway.
All right. And it depends on whether or not what time of the year it is. You don't do that all year long, right?
No, we usually start up in mid-March depending on the weather, and we wrap up by the first or second week of December.
Okay. And you do mainly landscaping type business.
Yes, that's
Okay.
it.
So what do you do in the winter?
Hope for snow.
Okay. Do you do
Snow
removal?
Yeah, we do snow plowing.
And do you have commercial sites that you
Yes.
provide snow
yes.
plowing for?
A
Is
lot
that
of
correct?
commercial sites, yes.
Okay. Let's go to the summer. In the summer, how many employees are arriving at the property?
On a daily basis, could be 10 to 15, depending
All
on
right.
the time of the season.
And what are your hours in the summer?
Employees arrive approximately 7 o'clock, 10 to 7 a.m. And we usually wrap up between 6 and 7 p.m. on the average.
All right. When you say that, do the employees come in the morning and pick up the trucks and equipment and then go out to do the work?
Yes, they all come in together, get in the vehicles, get their job duties for the day. They leave the property approximately between 7:15 and 7:30.
All right. And when do
return
they come back to the property?
About 6, 7 p.m.
All right, so mainly during the entire day, there's nobody on the property working.
Very little activity on the property unless we're doing something around the property for the day.
All right, okay. How many cars come, the employees, do they,
It ranges. Most of them carpool, so sometimes it's three employee cars, sometimes it could be 5 employee cars.
and are they all able to park behind your
Yeah, there's
residence off of Garibaldi?
plenty of room behind building A or building B.
Okay. You said building A and building B. What types of buildings do you have behind your residence?
I have a pole barn, approximately 40 by 70-foot pole barn. And then we have a carport on the side of the property, which is approximately 50 feet by 70 feet, I think it is, 75 feet.
And is that carport, does it have a foundation or it's just movable?
No, it's just movable, it's gravel.
Okay. All right. Now, do you, so if I understand this right, your employees come in, they pick up the equipment and they leave. That's basically
Yes,
how it works.
correct.
And then they come back at night and drop off and go home.
Leave for the day, correct.
Okay. Yeah, that's the summertime. What about in the wintertime, starting in,
It just depends on it all comes down to the weather.
okay, does anybody, in general, is anybody coming to the property all during the
Only
day?
during the winter time, I might have my main supervisor come in a couple hours a week just to earn some money for the winter, because otherwise they're not getting paid hourly at that point.
Okay. And so you have mostly no employees come to the business, to the
Unless-
property in the winter?
Not unless the weather calls for it.
Okay. Do you have some bobcats and things for moving snow, is that correct?
Yes, I have 10 Bobcats.
And do you keep them on the property in the winter, or you take them to the commercial properties?
We take them to site, we move them in November, begin November, and leave them on site until March or April, depending on the weather, that we bring them back to the property.
So if it snows, your employees go directly to the property, commercial
Majority of my
property?
employees go directly to the property when the first snowstorm.
Okay. And do you also have some plows for plowing on,
Yes, I have several trucks that have plows on it.
okay, are they detachable plows, or you can?
Yeah, they
put them
come on and off. Once we put them on, hopefully we keep them on the whole year.
Okay. How many company vehicles are there altogether?
I have 9.
Have 9?
9 trucks.
And how many are on the property? They're all there?
At the end of the day, 9 trucks are on the property, buddy, at the end of the day.
Okay, but most of them are not there for the entire day, they're in use?
2 or 3 trucks go on a daily basis.
Okay. All right. Do you store any materials on the property?
No.
Was there a time when there was a storage of mulch on the property?
The previous owner used to have the mulch delivered in bulk at the beginning of the season, so we could mulch the properties.
Okay, and how long ago did you discontinue that?
Approximately 3 years ago when I purchased the company.
And you don't intend to ever bring any materials on the property?
No, it's more efficient to pick it up.
You pick all your properties up?
We
I
pick the
don't know.
mulch up on the way to the site.
Okay. Now, do you store any hazardous or toxic materials on the site?
They do have some herbicide for weed killer that I keep on the site.
Okay, and do you have a license for keeping that on the
Yes.
site? You do? And who do you get that license from?
Under the DEP, the state.
Okay, and is there a special way you have to store it?
Yes, we have to keep it in a lock cabinet, a labeled lock cabinet. And that's where we keep it. We keep it in carport.
Okay. How much do you have there at a time?
On any given day, 2 to 6 gallons. We don't
Okay.
purchase a lot of it at a time.
Okay. And it's safely locked away
Yes,
pursuant to regulation?
yes.
Okay.
They do keep material on the trailers to work with every day.
Okay, sure. Do you have any customers that visit the site? Anybody from the public?
No.
Do you have an office on the site?
Yes, I have a small office inside the pole barn.
Inside the pole barn, you
Yes.
keep an office, small office, okay. Where do you repair your vehicles? Maintenance on your
99% of the work under the trucks get done at All American Ford. And once in a while, we might replace the brakes. During the winter time, there's nothing to do for my employees. I'll bring them in to get some hours and then they'll replace the brakes and stuff on them.
But basically, you don't do any other type of oil changes? or-
No. Not for the vehicles. Only oil changes we do are for the lawnmowers.
Do you have fuel stored on site for the vehicles?
We don't store fuel in bulk. We do keep gallons of gasoline, 5-gallon gasoline cans in the landscape trailers.
How many of those do you have on site?
I probably have 8 to 9 of them, but we keep 3 on each trailer, 2 to 3 on each trailer.
And what do you use that gasoline for?
Just to refill the mowers during the day while the guys are out, if they run low and get unfueled.
Okay, so you use it to put the gas in your mowers?
Yes,
Okay. And the trucks you just take to a gas station?
yes.
Okay, all right. Now, you haven't provided for any loading. Do you need to have a loading spot on this property?
No,
What kind of, are there any trucks that visit the property to bring you supplies or anything?
I don't get deliveries for supplies. I might get delivery from a truck for a piece of equipment or something for my shop or something for my house. There's only vehicles or trucks that will come to the house.
Okay. Do you have any outside storage bins on the property?
I have just between the 2 buildings, no.
No, none, okay. Do you have any, like a refuge storage area, waste storage area on the property?
No, we really don't bring waste back with us from any job sites. It's disposable. We do all commercial properties, so the commercial dumpsters at the properties, and that's where all the waste goes at that point.
Okay, so you're like generating no waste on the business of the property?
But our household trash we use and stuff inside the building and stuff gets brought with the guys in the morning. They dump it at one of the sites.
Okay, so just regular household trash you're generating?
Yes.
Property, okay. Now, you said you do chipping trees, is that,
Yes,
you're doing tree removal?
we do tree removal, yes.
And you chip them up?
Yes,
Okay, where is the byproduct of that stored or disposed?
that gets disposed. We have several sites we dispose of in town. Slamming Cans is one of them. RKD, the art lot, we dump the wood at. And there's also Twin Ponds Nursery on Federal Road that we dump at.
And they use it for mulch?
Mulch, dirt, topsoil, whatever they fill. Yes,
All right, and you have to pay them to take that?
yes.
Now, in the back, you have a stone area in the back there at the right of way. Is that going to remain the stone area behind there?
As far as, I hope so, yes.
Now, you have a driveway that goes to Old Forge, right?
Yes,
Does that go all the way through to Garibaldi?
yes.
And that's a paved driveway, covered
Asphalt
driveway?
driveway.
Okay, and there is there is an additional stone area in the back where you park vehicles?
Yes, once you get back to the residential backyard, it's stone around all the buildings on the right-hand side.
Okay. Do all of your employees park in the back?
All my employees will park in the back then.
Now, just to clarify, in the past, there were a couple of them that parked on the side of the house.
Yes, and my 2 supervisors used to come in the front of the property.
Yeah.
park in the front of the building.
But you've been advised now that you would need that that's not
Park
proper, you can't use the same driveway for residential. Okay, so they will now park in the back.
Yes, they were entering and exit through the rear.
Now, can you tell the board exactly what the landscaping on the property looks like?
Yeah, I'll show you or
If you feel you can, sure, I know
I'll
you're,
try to.
Is this something that was part of the packet that was submitted?
Yes.
So this is,
yes.
so, all right. This, the colorized version of this was submitted.
Yes, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
There's a mic.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, on the north side of the property, after I purchased the business, I installed approximately 60 to 70 Leland cypress along the side of the property. Along the wood line, I mean, we got a lot of woods, a lot of trees on both sides of the property. I have arborvitae's going across the rear of my yard, so the buildings are pretty much blocked except from the driveway view. I do have skip laurel plants we planted 10, 15 years ago in the wood line over here. So they filled in the bush to lower the lower area so they don't see underneath the trees. In the rear of the property, there's only a couple trees in the rear of the property, facing Garibaldi. And other than that, that's the entrance I come into all the time. My employees come in here off Avenue K, down Garibaldi, and they pull in the rear of the property. Right now, I have them backing the trailers in, so in the morning when they leave, they can pull straight out. Their backup beepers on going off in the morning.
By the way, is there any noise, you produce noise that from your employees when they're there? Is there a lot of noise?
When they come in the morning and start the trucks, there is occasions where they have to, so walk back over here.
Could you do me a favor while you're
Yes.
over there? Could you just identify what sheet it is that you were referring to? Should be in the lower right-hand corner.
Which one it is?
Tell us. what
Tell,
sheet.
yep, no.
For the aerial display. Aerial image in March 2022.
And what is it called?
Aerial display.
Aerial display?
Yep. This one just shows 200 feet boundary around the park.
Council, was that submitted when you made application
I believe that was the last package you made.
with the last packet?
Yeah, he prepared a pack.
When was that?
Laura, did you get that? Was submitted?
Because it seems like no one has that color rendering of what you're referring to.
Right. Let's do this. Somebody can mark that exhibit A1. Cut to the chase. Save us. You got it.
So do you help maintain Garibaldi Avenue in the rear?
Yes, we kind of keep graded. We grade it a couple times a year because it does get developed little sinkholes or potholes in it. We maintain the whole rear of the property as far as all the overgrowth, weeds, trees, or whatever overgrow. People do dump garbage back there that we do pick up, clean back there. So
Alrighty, are there any trees you're to remove from the property?
do I need to remove? No.
No. And just explain, is there foliage that is a barrier between you and your neighbors?
There is, towards the rear of the property, the front of the property, the trees are, canopies are cut kind of high, 15 feet or so. So in front of the property from pretty close to my yard, I ran a Leland cypress up the property line to the beginning of my deck. So the deck part of my home back is covered with Leland cypress on the north side of the property.
Right, and just to repeat, your employees, by going down Avenue K, coming up Garibaldi, can enter the property in the rear.
Yes,
Okay. And that is pretty much hidden from the,
the only thing you really see from Old Ford Road is the main pole vault.
I have no further questions for this.
Hey, Council, I normally don't like to ask questions till everyone speaks, but you keep mentioning trailers, and we haven't heard a number of trailers.
I have 2 enclosed trailers.
2 enclosed trailers. Are
I
there
have
any
one-
generators that you deal with?
Excuse me?
Any generators?
I have a generator hooked up to the house, but I have no generators.
No, I'm talking about the
for
business. You're
No,
not here for your home, whatever pertains to the business.
No
No,
generator.
no
for the
generators,
business.
no portable generators for
No.
anything you, okay, so the trailers are 2 enclosed?
2 enclosed trailers. I have 1 equipment trailer, 18-foot equipment trailer, and I have another 12-foot equipment trailer.
Okay, so there's 4 trailers in total.
Yes.
Council, you may proceed.
Chairman, sorry, but can I get clarification? We do have a list of vehicles on site, but I heard you talk about lawnmowers as well as something else. Do you have a total list of what equipment
Yes,
we
you
do.
have on site?
Would you like us to read it to you and then submit it, or?
I mean, for the record, if you can just,
Sure.
is it a long list?
A few copies, yes.
All right.
Okay, why don't we mark one of those as exhibit A2, an equipment list.
And for the record, all that equipment is stored inside either building A or B, right?
Yes, the trucks are the only thing that remain outside in the wood chipper.
Okay.
You could read one copy of that into the record, because otherwise we've got
I will have it.
a fair number of new sections. Perfect, thank you, appreciate it.
Can you read that into the record?
Yes. Detailed years of the trucks and everything, or?
Yeah.
All right.
Start with the trucks.
I have two 2015 Ford F-550 Mason dumps. I have a 2016 F-250 pickup truck. I have three 2017 F-Ford 550 Mason dumps. One of them's a trash body on it. 2022 Ford F-600 Mason dump, and a 2013 Chevy 3500 Mason dump. The trailers we discussed already. I have 10 Bobcat skid loaders. 9 of them stay inside a pole barn all season long. I keep one outside that we take if we need to use it on the job.
And they are moved off the property in the winter, is that correct?
Yeah, so they all go off the property in the wintertime. I have a Yanmar V8 front end loader that stays in the carport during the summer, goes on site for the winter. The tow behind leaf vac, an OBD, that stays inside the building till the fall comes, and then it stays out for about a month and goes back into the building. Small mini New Holland skid loader that stays inside the carport, an MT100 track stand-on loader, stays within the carport. I do have a total of, I can't keep tracking here, 10 mowers, or 10, 11 mowers I have, 52-inch and 60-inch. 6 stay on the trailers, 3 in each trailer, enclosed trailer. The rest of them stay inside the carport unless we need it for another job. 6 Boss V plows. I have 5 V-box spreaders. They're in the trucks in the winter time, and then in summertime they go inside the building, inside the carport.
That's for spreading sand and salt.
Well, yes. Some small power equipment, small push mowers, aerators, stuff like that, and snow blowers.
Can you just explain a little bit in detail the 9 Bobcat skid steers versus the 10 Bobcat skid loaders? What's the difference? For those of
There's
us.
10 Bobcat. I had to repurchase another Bobcat.
So the 9 on the bottom equals the 10 that's on in the middle?
Yeah, the total we have right now is 10.
Now, as far as the plows that are on there, those are detachable plows, correct?
Yes.
And they stay inside until the wintertime, until there's snow.
Yeah, we take them off. We store them inside the pole barn.
So if snow comes, you put them on the truck.
In the fall time, November is when we're doing all switch over now, and then they come outside and they get stored behind the building. And because employees aren't coming in anymore, so I use the parking area for my plows, and then I have the trucks there. And most of the time, the plows stay on the trucks unless we know there's no weather, then we take them off.
Please proceed.
I have no further questions.
Okay, so we're going to go through all your testimony, and then we'll get to our professionals, and then any board members.
Sure, okay. I would call Mr. J. Patel at this point. He'll provide our engineering testimony. Mr. Patel, could you state your qualifications?
If I could swear him in first, we'll run through that, and then
Oh, sure.
if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address,
Sure.
please.
Jayesh Patel, Jayesh Patel. I'm employed with Crest Engineering, one of the principal over there. Been working since 1998, and I have a professional engineer as well as professional planner's license in
We'll-
state of New Jersey.
We'll accept your credentials as a professional.
Thank you
Please
very
sit
much.
down, counsel, please proceed.
Mr. Patel, would you explain the engineering of the application?
Sure. The
It's on.
subject property is known as Lot 26, Block 109.24. It contains 1.53 acres and it's located in R60 zone. The site has a dual frontage, one on Old Forge Road and another on Garibaldi Road. They are both township roads. On the site, the existing site improvements consist of 2-story residential dwelling with garage, driveway, in-ground pool, fence surrounding the pole, and access driveway from Old Forge Road that goes all the way to the Garibaldi Road. Two one-story garage structures also on the side with the frontage on Garibaldi Road. Garage building A, which is located on the south side of the lot, contains 3,383 square feet, and garage building B, located on the north side of the lot, contains 2,735 square feet. As the applicant has explained, site has dual use, residential and commercial. He has gone through the business operation that Collins Landscape started the commercial business years ago, with both providing services to commercial as well as residential properties. Because the site has a dual use, the use variance as well as because of the lot size, it requires bulk variances and some minor site plan approval is required because of the minor improvements proposed on the site. Regarding the bulk requirements, the lot area meets the 60,000 square feet requirement. Lot width is required 200 feet versus the existing width is 167. That means the lot width variance is required. Lot frontage also 167 feet versus 200 feet required. Thus, the variance will be required for lot frontage also. Lot depth required is 200 feet. The existing lot is 400 feet deep, and it complies the zoning requirement. Minimum front yard setback is 50 feet. The front yard setback from the Old Forge Road is 93 feet and 46.6 feet from Garibaldi Avenue. So variance is required for the front yard setback from Garibaldi Avenue. Minimum rear yard setback 50 feet. Since site has dual frontage, there is no rear yard. So rear yard setback requirement is not applicable. Minimum side yard setback is 30 feet. Because of these two structures, the garage structures A and B, they are located 7.3 feet and 18.5 feet from their side yards. They both require variance for side yards. Maximum number of stories, 2.5 feet. Two-story dwelling unit is existing, and garage structures are 1 story each. Therefore, the number of stories meet the requirement. Maximum building height 35 feet. As far as the residential dwelling, which is below 35 feet. Also, the both garage structure A and B, they are also less than 35 feet. We need to provide the building height. Maximum percent building and structures coverage. Zoning allows 20% maximum. The existing total building and structures coverage is 12.25, thus complying the ordinance requirement. Maximum percent impervious lot coverage is 30% versus 59.6% existing with the gravel. And minimum buffer width from right of way is 60 feet versus 24 feet exists from Garibaldi Avenue, requiring the variance for both buffer width as well as the maximum percentage impervious lot coverage. Now, regarding the improvements proposed for the property, so the 5 parking spaces that is proposed for the employees will be delineated on the rear side of the
Can you grab that microphone, please? Thank you.
On the east side of this building structure B, so the delineation is for the 5 car parking spaces proposed on the east side of the building B. The 1 truck storage, which is delineated on the variance plan, is 9 feet by 22 feet. That is the truck storage shown on the plan. Also propose a 20-feet gate and 6-feet high chain link fence, which fronts along the Garibaldi Avenue. Now, this is only if the board feels it's required, professional feels it's required. As the applicant has indicated, additional landscaping is going to be provided in form of Leyland cypress on the any gaps that exist between the existing parking spaces and the property line, and same thing for the garage structure A and the property line on the south side. And then there is a little bit of encroachment on the adjacent property, lot 25. So the stone which encroaches on the adjacent property line will be removed. So these are the minor improvements proposed for the site. We have also received the township consultants' review letters. We have gone through those, and those are pretty minor, except a couple of things that we deem it's not necessary and request a waiver. So going through CME Ms. Apte's memo dated November 16. Summary of application proposal, page 1, the site plan. The owner of the application, Joseph Gravina, has been now listed on our cover sheet correctly. On page 3, the FEMA flood map, review of the FEMA National Flood Map, panel 34023 C0256, which is effective July 6, 2010, shows the site is outside of flood zone in Zone X, which is the area of minimal flood hazard. Number 4, zoning and bulk review. One of the items that is called out is the paved, the stone area appears to extend into the public right-of-way and should be removed. Our plan indicates the stone area to remain within the Garibaldi Avenue. As Mr. Gravina explained, he is accessing all his business from Garibaldi Avenue, and therefore it's important to have the Garibaldi Avenue road be stable, and he has maintained the stone until up to the, I guess, Avenue K. So that is planned to stay. Next one is the application. Appears that the applicant is requesting D1 use variance, not a certificate of pre-existing non-conforming use. So yes, we understand this is a D1 use variance for the pre-existing non-conforming use. For the page 4,
I was just saying, just to clarify, it's a D1 use variance.
D1 use
Right,
variance.
it's not a pre-existing non-conforming use.
But it's a,
So,
right.
okay, just
Counsel,
right, I'm,
Mr.
yeah.
Patel, hold on a second. I would like for him to get his testimony out. I don't think we're at the point, because I don't want to stop the flow of everything where Mika's going to make remarks. Let him get his testimony. Let whoever else has to come up, we'll get to our professionals, and then we'll bring them back up and we'll address things, because this is going to go hodgepodge and it's going to get out of order. So
I just was-
whatever testimony he has, if he's going to review this, it's going to take things out of order and it's not going to go correctly. Then the board members are going to have questions and everything's going to get prolonged. Let everyone get their testimony out, and then we'll come out and we'll review questions, okay?
Well, I just wanted to clarify that question
Yeah.
about the D1
Can you
variance.
keep the mic closer, please?
I just wanted to clarify that question about the D1 variance.
Well, that's okay, but it was a little bit more than just that. He's going item by item, and I'm not going to give Meeker an opportunity now because I want to get everything presented. Then we'll get to that. Mr. Patel will be able to come back up.
Right. Regarding the bulk variances, I've gone through the each item listed on page 4, where the building height will be provided when the plans will be revised. Regarding the buffer and berm, has been previously told, the existing landscaping is the Layla cypress that exist, and any gaps that exist will be filled with the similar landscaping unless the board engineer or planner deems any different kind of landscaping is necessary. Regarding the parking, yes, we understand the variance is requested for parking in the front yard. Regarding on the items on the page 5, the lighting, the average illumination must be provided to determine the compliance for the lighting. We have shown on our plan with the existing lights on 2 garage structures with 0.9 foot candle pattern is shown. With the parking spaces noted on the cover sheet is 10 by 20. We would like to correct the delineated spaces called out on the plan is 9 by 20, and the variance will be required. Regarding the next item, which is a variance for the parking proposed adjacent to building, and so in case of an emergency, 2 sides will be still remain open for firefighting purposes. Regarding this schedule of parking spaces, Mr. Gravina has gone through detail how many employees, how they come to site, and truck storage. Mr. Gravina has explained no delivery is happening at this site, and therefore no loading space is required. On page 6, the signage is not proposed. Fencing is mentioned. There are 2 different type of fencing shown on the plan. One is existing, which is 4 feet tall vinyl fencing, which is surrounding the existing in-ground pool behind the residential dwelling. The proposed 6 feet tall chain link fence will be along the frontage of the Garibaldi Avenue. If the board deems necessary, will applicant intends to install street trees. Regarding the compliance with the street trees, street trees exist on the Old Forge Road as initially this site was developed, and the trees were planted, still exist. No trees have, or no changes has been occurring on the frontage of the Old Ford Road. The Garibaldi Road, there are existing couple of pine trees there, so therefore it's not there is no intention to plant any additional trees. Regarding the affordable housing, the applicant will abide by the condition of the approval, and the remaining items are the planning testimony, which the planner will provide the testimony.
Want to introduce these at all?
Yes.
Counsel, is he done with, Mr. Patel done with his testimony?
He does have some
I have-
exhibits here and there.
Yeah, I would like to also go through the couple of the exhibits.
Are these new exhibits that are being submitted, or have they been previously?
As I say, if we need to mark one of each.
Yeah,
You don't have to
the
give
mark-
everyone, just hand some and they'll pass them right around.
He's going to mark them for you. A3 and 4.
Just leave them right here, we'll take care of it.
I've got a document that's listed as historical aerial exhibit prepared by Crest Engineering Associates, 223 Old Forge Road, prepared by Crest Engineering Associates, November 2023. This will be Exhibit A3. And then a site photo exhibit prepared by Crest Engineering Associates, 223 Old Forge Road, dated November 2023. This will be Exhibit A4. And just, let's
All the same? Oh, no.
So Exhibit A3 is 7 pages consisting of a cover sheet with 6 images, and Exhibit A4 is a cover sheet and and 8 images, so 9 pages total.
Exhibit A3, which has the historical images of the site, showing the different photographs from different time frame. The number 1 is 2002 infrared imaginary, which shows the house along the left side, which is the Old Ford Road. On the top is the Avenue K, and on the back of, or on the right side, which is the Garibaldi Avenue. You can see from that image that the building B, which was seen in this, which is seen in this picture. So in 2002, the building B already existed. So there was a already the business part of happening at this site through the use of this building. 2007 color imaginary, which is the next sheet, which shows still the same building, and on the south side of the building, there's a couple of cars parked there within the somewhat cleared area. 2010 color imagery shows now the building A is existing on the south side of the south side of the building B, and it's continuation through 2012, 15, and 20. Same thing. The driveway, which is paved, exists between the Old Forge Road, extends almost to the Garibaldi Avenue. So that covers the exhibit A3. going over the exhibit A4, which are 8 site photos, which you have already there. Picture number 1, which is looking from the house number 221, Old Forge Road, from the back. You are looking at the site and the pole barn and the car parking area. Little bit, the picture number 2 shows the same area, but further towards the pole barn building. As you can see, there's hardly anything is visible. Number 3 photo is from the property number 225, looking from that side towards the site, looking at the building B. You can see a little bit visibility, but mostly everything is filtered through and not readily visible. Picture number 4 is from the Old Fort Road, looking at the dwelling directly into the garage, and on the left side in the back is that building B with 2 overhead doors visible. Number 5 and 6 are same, but from a little further distance away, similar to number 3, from looking from backyard up to 225 towards the site. And number 7 is the from the shop, which is that is the building B, looking in towards the Old Forge Road driveway entrance. And number 8 is the view from 225, looking from the building, which is building B from the site. So that covers the exhibit A4, which shows that even though these 2 buildings exist, from surrounding neighborhood, it's not readily visible. And enough landscaping exists to provide needed buffer.
Mr. Patel, one other thing. Your plan provides for a 6-foot fence along Garibaldi, is that correct?
Correct.
But we would prefer not to do that. That kind of locates a fence in the forest, right?
Correct. That is correct.
But
Yes.
there's really no public.
Yeah. The Garibaldi Road is very accessible, but it's not traveled by general public, and it's only not improved, which has a dirt road which exists behind, further on the south side of the property, but from the Avenue K to the side, the applicant has provided the gravel road just for access. So therefore, that particular road is not traveled by, public.
Just to reiterate, the applicant is not looking for any signage.
The applicant is not looking for any signage.
Nothing
That is
else other than
correct.
business on the property.
Correct.
Is he done with his testimony? Okay, we're gonna go out of order. Mika, you're gonna have your chance to respond. He made some issues or some statements with respect to your comments, so
Go to
might as well
the,
get it off the table now.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Patel, to start with, I want to clarify, the words have been used, the carport. Is that a carport or is it a building with walls, the garage A?
the garage A has a 3-side walls, and on the one side it's open. It's 3 sides closed. On this side, looking towards the building B, that is open.
Okay. And that is used for all kind of equipment storage.
Correct.
But the garage B is a completely enclosed garage.
Garage B is completely enclosed.
You have testified that you will be providing the heights for both of these buildings?
Correct.
Okay. In terms of landscaping, we heard your testimony saying that there is an existing cypress line. Is that on this subject site or is it on the neighbor's lawn?
It is on the subject side.
Okay, because we, in the use variance sketch that has been provided, we weren't shown there is any kind of landscaping that is on the property.
Right, we have to add, when we revise the plan, we'll show the existing Leyland cypress landscaping that exists on the site.
Okay, on this site.
Correct.
And the testimony is that that is sufficient, even though the width is only about 7
With the
feet?
width of
8
6,
feet?
7 feet, right, yeah.
Okay. In terms of lighting, I heard your testimony regarding, the lighting is mounted on the building. But
Correct.
as you must have noticed from our memo, the lighting is at varied heights around the buildings, both Building B and Building A.
Right.
Is there a reason for it, why they're not on the same height levels, or what's happening?
They were existing lights, they were mounted on, then we have just used the light meter to see where, the foot candle is shown on the plan, is that 0.9 foot candle is shown. But the height of the mounted lights are different.
Yeah, because they almost range from about 15 feet to
Correct.
7 feet.
Correct.
But the testimony is there is no, other than the areas marked as parking areas, there's nowhere else any kind of equipment is stored outside, right? So I'm just trying to understand why the varying heights of the lights exist.
They are different wattages, and they were, I guess, were installed.
The applicant could perhaps answer that.
Sure.
Have him come forward. Have him sit down. You could stand. You could, Mr. Patel, you could stay there.
Yeah.
All right, the building A, the sidewalls are only 7 foot tall.
Okay.
Part of the carport, so that's why they're at 7 feet height along the sides of the carport. I think the back side might be 8 feet. The front side was closer to my residence at 7 feet. So I couldn't put them any higher because it'd be on the roof down, so that's the top of the wall.
Okay. And the
And where they're
building,
7 foot, it's only, there's no traffic over there, that's just like stone area and trees and stuff on that side of the building.
okay. And the building B, they're about 14 feet high.
Yes, they're at the soffit at the top of the wall.
Okay. Because the worry is some of that lighting along Garage B is spilling onto the neighbor's property. So is there any
No.
way shielding can be provided for it to be contained
There's no
within your?
lights facing either of my neighbor's property.
Yeah, but the
No,
No,
light,
but
Which one?
it's the foot candle.
that
is
would be one of the
going,
recommendations. If
right.
something can be
Yes,
worked
we
out.
can
Yeah, we
probably
can
manage,
I gotta adjust
pitch it
the
down
angle,
or
Yeah.
have to go closer to-
tilt the light.
Because we need to either
and,
see some kind of landscaping or shielding that's being.
Well,
worked.
Yeah.
that's where the Leland cypress are.
Okay,
Right.
they're not
Leland
shown,
cypress run
so,
along that curb line all the way up.
so we would like to see that, either the shielding provided or
Okay.
some kind of landscaping shown over there. Mr. Patel, question, again, I'm responding to your testimony, so the question is directed to both of you. In terms of parking, I know testimony was provided as to number of employees that come on site, and that's why 5 parking spaces are enough. But at the end of the day, this is a use variance with the site. So was there any kind of parking ratio study done as to, for this type of use, whether 5 spaces are enough? I know this business right now is using that,
Right.
but for a site like this, how many parking spaces would be needed?
Well, it's depends on the number of employees that will come, and they are accessing the site and going out, and based on that one, based on the information that have been available, we have provided 5 parking spaces because of the number of employees that will require the parking of the vehicles.
So, I mean, I understand that. That's
Yeah.
Mr. Gravelno's
Right.
testimony for
Right.
his business.
Right.
But if
But
the
based on
board
the
is looking
traffic-
at this as a wholesome business that's going to exist on the property,
Right.
for the building sizes of 2,735 and 3,383, are the 5 parking spaces enough from engineering point of view?
We have not, looked at based on the square footage of the building. Since those buildings are mainly for the storage equipment, so over here we feel that the building square footage would not actually, be reflecting the need for the parking spaces, because those are all mainly used for the equipment and the vehicle storage.
Okay. I mean,
So
This
Mika,
is another-
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can that question be turned around and say there's double the amount of trucks versus parking spaces for people? So what do we have such a fleet for? In other words, if 5 spots are adequate for the business, but yet we have 10 Bobcats, 9 pickup trucks, or a combination of trucks, 4 trailers, does that warrant 5 spots? I mean, if he's not going to refer to the pole barn or the open thing because it's not enclosed, it's not an office, so how do we calculate, how would we come up with the correct number of parking spots?
that's basically what I'm trying to understand, that either we, typically an ITE calculation for business this size would, I guess, employ 15 employees, and that's why the 5 parking spaces, or some kind of, professional testimony to be provided as to why we think 5 spaces is enough, or limit that, it'll always be used as 5 commercial spaces on this site. Something to.
Okay, so maybe we can reserve that question as we move down, so maybe we could just get to some other topics. So
Yeah.
we can move
I
along a
mean, I
little
could
bit.
answer that question. I could
Yeah.
shed some light on it. As far as the trucks go, because you asked me what I use all the equipment for, most of the trucks are for the winter. We need them for the snow removal. That's why I had the trucks.
No, I think we understand that.
All right.
But there has to be some formula to an
The amount of-
existing business, how you derive how many parking spaces are required for an existing business.
All right.
Your opening testimony was you had 13, 15 employees, if I'm correct. You said some travel together. So that would have to be 5 people in a car, 3 people per car.
Yes.
And that's probably not always an ideal thing if they're coming from different locations in different inclement weather. So I offered a suggestion, how do we back into, because it's a pole barn, how do we derive with coming up with the appropriate spots for the
Right,
business? So that's why I phrased it that way, offering some insight. I'm not an engineer, I'm not a planner, that's their job,
Right.
but sometimes from an outside perspective, it may strike a match and someone will come up with a different idea.
All right.
Yeah. And again, like as Chairman said, we understand that's your testimony and that's typical to this business. But at the end of the day, the board is looking at maybe this business is going to stay on this site. So, like tomorrow, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you give your business to somebody else whose business model will be something different. Would that change how many parking spaces would be needed? So that's the question we're trying to get at. The next question has to do with the paving that was testified to, that the stone paver area exists on Garibaldi Avenue and you're not proposing to remove it. The rest of Garibaldi Avenue is not paved, right? It's not an improved.
There is some stone that Mr. Gravina has put in up to Avenue K.
All the way from his property, all the way to.
Correct.
Oh.
I technically didn't put it in. Bob Collins, the previous owner.
Right. I'm sorry.
Continue to maintain it.
Okay. And the inside the property where your equipment and all is, that's all gravel area, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because one of the, and I would defer this to our board engineer, but one of the requirements is that driveways have to be paved. I'm just wrestling with the idea as to, outside your property is paved, but inside your property is not. So, and you are moving heavy equipment from there.
I have a driveway, paved driveway from Whole Foods.
From the
Road
front.
All the way to Garibaldi.
Okay.
So I think
Right.
there is a solid asphalt driveway.
yeah, so the pavement which goes like that and it ends right just before the property ends, there's a depressed curb right here and it's paved. So this area is paved. On this side, which is the south side, is stone.
And all those dump trucks and trailers, are they going to be parked on the stone area or?
They are occasionally parked on the stone area, as you can see.
And just a couple more questions.
It's okay, take your time.
In terms of street trees, I understand on Old Forge there's street trees existing, but what's happening on Garibaldi Avenue? You said
There are
is-
these trees that's right in here, as you can see. So where the drive and stone area opening is, that's where the trees are not there. But the trees exist, as you can see from the shadow also, like it's up to here, right? And on this side, the trees start from right here. So then-
I would ask you to confirm that it meets the, township ordinance requirement. I
right,
think
which
it's
is
one
based
every
on the
four-
frontage number
Yeah.
of trees required. Okay.
in terms of that. I think that's it for now, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Patel, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I think earlier you indicated that there'd be a 6-foot chain link fence installed along the back?
Yes.
Did that
Well,
include?
that is the Garibaldi Avenue
Right, so
frontage.
does that include closing off that driveway to Garibaldi?
The driveway will have the gate. If that's, if it is, required. Mr. Gravina doesn't feel it's necessary.
Okay. Okay, so Meeker had her chance. I'm gonna shoot to Mark. So
Thank you.
We'll get going here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fencing gate was my recommendation at some point when they first submitted their application. They did not originally propose that, but we asked for that, and they are providing it with the gate. It is a paved driveway from Old Forge out to Garibaldi. They are asking for a variance for relief of gravel area for parking. Our ordinance requires the entire parking area to be paved. However, they are asking for that relief for that portion. And the area that's gravel, that is just storage of vehicles? Okay, so that's not any part of that driveway, that
No, not now.
straight
no.
through the driveway. Okay, and I don't have any objection to that. With regard to my letter dated August 8, 2023, the applicant has actually addressed a lot of the items on here through testimony. Just for the record, does the applicant agree to meet all the comments in my review letter dated
Yes, we do.
August 8th? August 8th?
Except a couple of items I would like to go through.
Which one?
With that later, item number 4 on a page 2 for 4J and I. So 4J, impervious lot coverage. It says a topographical survey shall be provided to demonstrate the site is graded and drained to dispose of all surface water without detriment to the surrounding properties. We agree to provide the topographical survey. However, a grading plan shall be provided. It's requested the grading plan shall be provided. I wanted to just clarify. You mean the topographical map showing the slope on the paved surfaces? Would that be enough? Or
Are you changing any of the grading patterns?
there is
after
no
drainage pattern?
no grading pattern is changing?
Then that would be sufficient.
Okay. Next thing is the item 4I. Curbs, sidewalks, and right-of-way dedication shall be provided along the frontage on Old Forge Road.
Correct.
Again, there is no improvements proposed along the road, Old Forge Road, and therefore, originally the road has been improved without the curb and sidewalks. I believe providing the curb and sidewalk will change the drainage pattern. It may create the ponding area and things like that. So, would like to have a waiver from the requirement.
So our ordinance requires installation of the curb and sidewalk, or if the board chooses in lieu of installing the curb and sidewalk, a contribution in kind for future installation of curb and sidewalk. Are you agreeable? And I agree that it's an area that there's no curb
There
and
is no
sidewalk.
on either side, no
I'd
curb and
recommend a
sidewalk.
contribution.
I have to defer to.
We accept that.
Thank you. Any other items?
The next one is that M, a cross-section showing the composition of existing pavement and curbs. Well, so the curb is already existing, nothing is proposed, and same thing with the pavement. So, like to have a, waiver from that
So,
requirement.
a couple questions on that. Is there any public that comes to this site, or this is strictly you and your employees?
Myself and my employees.
Okay. With regard to the existing pavement, what is the condition of the pavement? Is it able to withstand the weight of the trucks that are utilizing it?
The section that the trucks are on, yes. They're on the rear of the property.
Then I'm comfortable with that.
Yes, okay, appreciate it. I think that's it. All the other items, are
Okay?
agreeable, or we will address it in a revised plan.
I just have another question. With regard to chipping, the chipping operation, are you doing any chipping of wood on this site?
Only time I would chip any wood on the site if my neighbors trim some trees or trim some bushes or whatever, leave me a pile, and then I trim it for them.
Wait, so you wouldn't cut branches elsewhere, bring
No,
them to the
everything
site,
goes-
and then chip it on the site and create a stockpile on
No,
your site?
everything gets done off-site.
Okay, and there's no stockpiling?
Nothing's ever stockpiled on the property. There are times throughout the year that we have a half a truckload of brush from a job or something, and we need that truck in the morning, they'll dump it on the back of the property, and then pick it up when they get back, and then they get a full truck, and then go dump it at one of the dumps.
Okay. And let's go back to the parking. So you indicated you had maybe 15 employees. So if you need more than 5 spots, where would they park?
I would put it behind the carport, the stone area. If I have to black the asphalt that area, then I would have to asphalt that area for the parking. But it's trucks, there's plenty of room back there for truck storage and employee parkings.
And do you run into that circumstance? Currently, is that a common?
When I'm at maximum, and if someone comes in a different car, then I'll have an extra car that they'll park where the trucks park right now, the storage area.
So maybe a car or
Yeah,
two.
That's tops, yes.
Okay. I have nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
Mark, the road that they're using in the back, is that a public road? Is that open to the public?
Garibaldi Avenue is a township right-of-way, and it's an unimproved right-of-way. They have utilized that. That is a stone road to some point and becomes a dirt road. It does provide access to our sanitary sewer line through there, and I believe the road continues all the way out to Spring Street. through there. Essentially, most of it's dirt. This portion is stone.
Okay. All right. Again, we're going to deviate a little bit before we get to your planner. I mean, because we heard our professionals, I'm sure some board members have questions with respect to the two people that gave testimony already. So anyone on the board have any questions? Very interesting. Yeah.
Just two quick ones. The amount of equipment that you have, has it increased since you took it over? And if so, by how much?
It hasn't increased, it's changed. I do have one extra vehicle that I had before, two extra vehicles that I had before, because now I do the tree removal. Mr. Collins did have loaders before, he sold them. I purchased another one when I bought the business. He did have extra Bobcats, he sold one at one point, I purchased another one to replace it.
Okay, so essentially the same number of pieces.
Two extra vehicles on the property now than previously.
Okay.
I'm sorry, one extra vehicle, because I sold one to make up for one, so.
And I know somebody, or you probably described this in the beginning, but I didn't hear it all. Has the nature of the operation changed significantly?
Everything's remained exactly the same from top to bottom. Only thing I do now is I do tree removal in-house instead of subbing it out to somebody else.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions from any board members? Seeing there's none, council, please proceed with your next.
Thank you, Chairman. For Mark Remza is our planner.
Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
My name is Mark Remsa, last name spelled Remsa. Address is 10 Dewberry Court, Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
We'll accept his credentials.
Mr. Remsa, since last you appeared and qualified as an expert in the area of professional planning, have your credentials been detrimentally affected?
They have not.
You can accept it, Mr. Lafayette.
Okay, we're good. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members, and members of the public. I'm not going to repeat all the description of the property. I think Mr. Gravina and Mr. Patel did a very good job describing the site. I will emphasize it's a double frontage. It's got two roads that provide access to the property. Garibaldi, where the residential portion is, and Old Forge Road, where the residential is, and Garibaldi is where the business access is. It's in the R20 zone. So when I took on this application, I had to understand the history of the property. And what I learned from speaking with Mr. Gavina and then actually doing some of my own research, the property's been a mixed use for a very long time, roughly 25 years, where it's been used as a single-family home, and in the back, a lawn and property maintenance business. And you saw on the maps that roughly the eastern third is where the business is, and the western 2/3 are where the residents are located. The surrounding land uses are to the north residential. To the east is the stormwater management basin that Mr. Gravina talked about. The south residential, and then across Old Forge Road is also residential. And I'm not going to repeat all the operations. I think we dove quite deeply into the type of operation and the equipment and things like that. And my takeaway when I was researching this is that the property is mostly having the equipment stored inside, and there are some trucks that are parked outside. Essentially, there really are no major improvements at all to the property, other than we're removing some gravel that has moved on to a neighboring property, and that gravel is being removed. And then that area that's going to have some Leland cypress planted, similar to what's already there on the other property line to create the extensive screening. So when I did my research, I not only listened to Mr. Gravina about how the previous owner, Mr. Collins, operated the property, but I also went to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection GEO website. And they have a great tool, an online tool that you can go and look and go over the years backwards, and they have aerial photographs. And I think you saw a number of those photographs showing that there's been a large building, a pole barn, and then another building permits were granted to put the other building up. So the business has been there for quite a long time. And so any of its impact on the neighboring properties is not changing. So it's been that way since the late 1990s. So to help develop a planning framework, I always look at this in terms of how the application fits into the zoning and what the current conditions are. And so this is the R60 zone. It's a residential zone. It permits single-family detached dwellings, parks and playgrounds, permits municipal offices and libraries and recreational facilities. It also allows farms, truck gardens, and other agricultural activities. And this landscaping is not a farm, but there are some similarities in terms of some of the functions. So, the storage of any herbicides or chemicals, although they're kept in small amounts on Mr. Gravina's property, it's not uncommon to find that at a truck garden or a farm where they would apply that. And the same thing has to go with fuel to operate tractors and equipment. So there are some similarities in terms of certain aspects of the current business that's before you, and then what's actually permitted in the zone. And also, it allows farm stands, and of course, they generate higher levels of traffic because the public comes to the property. Before I dive into the proofs, I do want to address the one item that I heard discussed about the parking requirements and generation. And I heard the term, the ITE, the International Traffic Engineers Handbook. Well, the way they developed the handbook is done by studies, and then they look at what different types of uses generate parking demand. They equate it to gross floor area typically, and then they do their statistical analysis to try to develop a reasonable rate of parking per square foot. Not every use fits into the IT handbook neatly. This is one of those uses that does not. There isn't a formula that you could say, Mr. Gravina's landscape business, this is how many parking spaces you need. The best test that we have here is that we actually have a case study. So this has been operating for a very long time. We heard Mr. Cole's question about, has the business changed much? And the answer is no. So the demand for parking is roughly typically five parking spaces, and then we heard that there may be a need for a sixth. And so, and then they can swap out a truck spot when that's being used, and then the employee's car can be parked there. So really, in terms of parking demand, you have a case study that's been around for 25 years, and the parking demand has not changed considerably over that period of time. And so I think you can comfortably say that up to 6 parking spaces would be needed, and then if you were to grant this use variance, and then you would have that condition placed on the applicant. Also, principally, all of the bulk variances that we heard about, they're all existing conditions. Nothing's being proposed in terms of exacerbating any of the bulk standards. They are what they are because they've been there for a very long time. And we're hearing that we're actually removing some of the gravel encroachment. And of course, the way the ordinance is written, buffers are required along all right-of-ways. Well, we have 2 right-of-ways. And in the back on Garibaldi, there is no buffer because it's just a gravel road that leads to a gravel area where the truck parking occurs. So, and then the same is true for the design exceptions. Everything is existing conditions. There's nothing being proposed to be changed. The only difference here is we're adding some trees, Leyland cypress. I'm unclear whether we still need the fence and the gate, but that would be an improvement as well. And then they're just delineating in the gravel areas where the parking would occur. And in terms of having to pave the areas where the trucks are parked, Monroe's ordinance for requiring pavement for parking areas is principally for areas that have high levels of traffic open to the public. So you would have the wear and tear on that. So here we have a truck that would enter and leave once a day. We'd have some employees come in and out once a day. And in some cases, some of the trucks stay there. So it's a very low volume of movement as it relates to the gravel. So it's an existing condition. It serves it well now. I don't see the need to pave all of that area. So I think the existing condition does a good job, unless they needed to have more another parking spot if you required them to pave it. But I don't think it's really necessary, and I think the design exception or variance could be granted on that. All right, so let's talk about the use itself in terms of the legal proofs. In terms of the positive criteria, you're well aware you have to promote the intent and purpose of municipal land use law. That's NJSA 40:55D-2. And I'm going to talk about the specific subsections or paragraphs. And the first one is G, and that's provide sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses, residential and commercial use. And this is what we have on this piece of property. And the property's been used such for a very long time. I believe that the uniqueness of the property that's been developed over about 25 years to have these 2 uses on there. So I think in this case we have an appropriate location for it. Promote H, to promote the free flow of traffic. And so we have the division of residential use from Old Forge, and then we have the business use from Garibaldi. And the flow of traffic is separated, and then it actually has relatively low volumes of traffic that it's generating. And that's because of the employees come in, the trucks go out, they're out all day, and then they come back, and then they're done. I, to promote a desirable visual environment. And Mr. Patel went through some of the photographs, and he showed you the very attractive aesthetics of the property. And that's going to be maintained and then enhanced with some additional Leyland cypress. And then we have A, coming back to promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And given the fact that we've promoted those others purposes and intent of the municipal land use law, I think we can also say that together we will be promoting the public health, morals, and morals and general welfare. So the other part of the positive criteria test is site suitability. And so we must demonstrate that the site's particularly suited for this proposed use. So is this site particularly suited for the residential and for the property maintenance business? Well, we've seen that it's been in this use for roughly 25 years, and the combination speaks for itself, so to speak. We have the uniqueness of the property that has the residence and the two, the pole barn and then the three-sided building for the storage. It's also unique in that it's double frontage, where we can actually separate the residential flow of traffic from the business from that. And then we can also provide reasonable screening of the business. And you saw that evidence from the photographs on that, I'm not sure if it's A3 or whatever we called it, but we saw the photographs that showed the screening and the landscaping, and that will have additional landscaping. Turning to the negative criteria, the first prong of that is we have to look at does a proposal accrue any substantial detriment to the public good? And that focuses on the adjoining properties. So to the north, we have a garage on the subject property that screens essentially the activities and the parking from the resident to the north, and also has the additional landscaping. To the east, across Garibaldi, is the stormwater management basin. I don't see any negative impact to that property. And then to the south, we have the existing garage on the subject property or building that also does the screening of the activity from the resident to the south. And then to the west, across Old Forge Road, the residential portion of the property and the home and the landscaping screen the business activity from that. And so, and we also have the separation of the business traffic from the residential traffic. So I don't see any negative impact accruing to that property as well. So the last part is, does this proposal substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance? And I do know that in 2022 you have a new master plan, and it does call for the R60 zone. However, there are some goals and objectives in the master plan that I believe this proposal does meet. And that is to achieve a balance of land use types that maintains and enhances the quality of life in the township. Also to encourage appropriate commercial development in areas of population concentration and where existing infrastructure can accommodate it. Again, we have Garibaldi and Old Forge separating the two separating the property for access, business from Garibaldi, residential traffic to Old Forge Road, and there isn't an extensive demand on infrastructure from this property. And how do we know that? Well, it's been there a very long time, and we don't see any detriment to the infrastructure. And that's to encourage. And then the last one is to encourage a redevelopment and infill development where it's feasible to promote the more efficient use of land and existing structures. And so we've had the two buildings in the back that house the storage of the equipment. The property in the back has been developed in that way for a very long time. And I believe that this will promote the continued efficient use of land for this property. So for those reasons, looking at the purposes of the municipal land use law, the particularity, particularly sites particularly suited for the use, that doesn't accrue any substantial detriment to the public good, and doesn't substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan, I believe on balance that the use variance can be granted, as well as the bulk variances that are related to the existing conditions, as well as the design exceptions can also be granted. So, Mr. Chairman and board members, that concludes my testimony, and I thank you for your opportunity for me to present to you tonight.
Mika, do you have anything for Mark?
I do have a couple of questions and some follow-up statements. In terms of the parking requirement, I understand your testimony that the case study has been provided by what's existing on the property. But as I understand, the 5 parking spaces are being proposed, right? We don't have calculation on what existed prior to this.
There are 5 parking spaces now. They're just not delineated. So you have an area in the gravel area that accommodates the 5 cars that park there.
Okay, that wasn't clear from the application. So is that the testimony that Mr. Collins also needed only 5 parking spaces for his
Yeah, the
employees?
testimony we heard tonight that it was 5 parking spaces, and then on occasion, if necessary, there may be a 6th, that 6th spot can be accommodated by the parking in the same spot where a truck is.
Okay. So thank you for that clarification. Again, the application didn't provide any history as to what Mr. Collins used the property for. And to bring that, is the testimony that a condition, the applicant would be agreeable to the condition that this use would be only associated with 5, if the board sees fit, only 5 parking spaces
5
and
plus
5,
5 plus 1.
so 6 parking spaces?
Yeah, and the qualifications is the 6th one would be in the spot where a truck would leave and then an employee could move into.
Where would, I would defer to the board, but we have 1 truck storage parking space that's on the east of Garage A. Is that the space we are looking?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. So it would, if board agrees to, would the applicant be agreeable to only 6 parking spaces with this commercial use?
Yes.
Okay. The second item that you brought up was about the paving area, and I would again defer to, but my concern was with that stone area, which is on the south side of the property next to Garage A. I believe that's where the 6 or 7 Mason dump, I'm assuming those are dump trucks, right? I don't know too much, but okay.
I think you're right.
So those are being parked? Oh. 5, 6. So 6, from the list, there are 6 Mason dump, 1 trash body. Is that also a truck?
Yes, that's it.
Okay, and then there is 1 pickup. So there are about 8
Yes.
trucks. So I'm assuming those are being parked in that stone area, what's itemized as stone area in the parking space.
Yeah, some of the trucks stay usually in the carport.
Okay.
There's 1 or
So-
2 trucks that stay in the carport. 2 of them stay on the driveway itself, next to the building and in front of the carport. Those are the ones that go out daily with the trailer. And any additional extra trucks we park behind Building A.
Okay. So
On
going
side.
back to the point, the concern that I was bringing up was you have the stone area, you have these large trucks being parked over there. And I understand mostly all the, the mowers and all are all inside, but there are enclosed trailers also that are also being parked on the side. So I understand it's being removed only once, but removing that, bringing that in is creating some kind of, noise, traffic, and dust and concern. So that's where I was coming at for. I would leave it to the board and their decision whether they want that paved. But since it is in a residential area, this is of a concern to me. Lastly, and this is no longer questions, I did want to bring some of the variances and proofs that are being discussed today. And I just want to bring it to the board's attention that ultimately the applicant is looking for a use variance where they're going to be using this property as commercial and residential. As I'm sure the board is very, very aware what type of proofs are needed, the positive, the negative, and in use variance, the site suitability. What we heard tonight is the site is suitable, A, because this has existed as such use for 25 years. I do want to bring to board attention that the site suitability question does come from the Medici case, which did say that for use variance and enhanced quality of proof as to why the site is suitable should be provided. In terms of whether the site exists as it is and how it has existed, in my opinion, is not a site suitability definition. What does provide the site suitability is the through lot nature of this property. It is providing that double frontage. But then again, so are the properties to the south of it, which are all in R60 zone. In terms of the third, in terms of negative criteria, the applicant is providing, some kind of landscaping with its surrounding properties. And the fact that these are larger lots to the south and north do have landscaping around that does help, to deal with the impacts of this property. But then again, the buffer requirements in Monroe zoning standards are very strict as to they requiring the 60-foot when it comes to non-residential uses. And the reason for that is any kind of impact when it's around a residential area should be dealt with. In this case, the applicant is providing sufficient buffers when it's along the road frontages. However, the side is substantially low. It's again 8 feet or 10 feet. So the applicant recommending adding little more landscaping there would definitely help, and shielding the lighting over there would help. I think those were the points I did want to bring forward in terms of use variances that we heard today. Thanks.
Mark, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Okay. Mark, I have a question.
Sure.
We spoke about a lot of things that may not be in your warehouse. What days of operation do we work? We talked about hours, we talked about staff,
Monday through Friday.
Monday through
I'm sorry.
Friday.
Monday through Friday, and sometimes Saturdays. We get rain day during the week, then the guys work on Saturday. Never on a Sunday and never on a holiday.
So what happens if you're doing snow removal and it snows on a Saturday night at 11 o'clock? How do you guys get to the yard to remove equipment and get
The
going?
guys come in. I don't have a lot of guys coming into the yard during snow. A lot of guys come before the snowstorm, pick up the truck and bring it to their house and go directly
But
to
they
site.
can still potentially come in on a weekend.
Yes, they can still come in on the weekend when it snows.
But
All
you're
hours. Like
you're
it's open all the
indicating
hours.
Monday through Friday. Is that what you're indicating?
For landscaping, yes.
Okay, so what would you indicate for snow?
5 or 6 times during the winter. The 5 or 6 snowstorms, they come in.
Okay.
Hours change. It could be 2 o'clock in the morning when they're called in and they come in. If I know it's going to be a late storm, I try to get them in the trucks earlier that day to bring the trucks home to their house. I come in, 1 or 2 other guys will come into the shop at that point.
Mark, I do have one question. What happens if the township closes off Garibaldi? It is a paper road. It's not paved. It's not used for public consumption. What happens, because it is a right-of-way or an easement for the township to access things, what if they decide to block the road and only township vehicles could enter to do work, maintenance of something of nature down that road? What happens to this gentleman's business?
Up, then the business would no longer have to operate there because it would not have that separation of traffic. And you can make that a condition of approval, that if that is ever terminated, its business that can operate. Because that's the way it's operated for 20-some
I
years.
understand that,
and
but the
that's
way
how
if their
it's-
business evolved, things may evolve where now it's going to be closed off for whatever reason it may be. I don't know. I'm not the township. I can't answer that question.
I think the question answers itself. It's that this would not be.
So
able
at
to-
that point, would they try to operate their business from his front driveway?
No, what we are stating for the record is if Garibaldi is ever closed, that will be the end of our business
Yeah.
on the property.
Other than relocating?
Yep.
Oh, do you have a comment or something?
Mr. Chairman, certainly, my only comment is that there's landlocked parcels out there where their only access is Garibaldi. There's unimproved lots, so someday you may see Garibaldi improved when, if the vacant lots become developed lots, would become developed lots in the future. So I don't see that being closed off, and then certainly in no time soon. And again, there's property there that their only access is Garibaldi. Again, right now they're wooded lots, but they could be improved at some point, as we know.
Okay. Any board members have any questions? Seeing there's none, Counselor, you done with your testimony?
We're done with our.
Okay, I know the public is waiting. Before we get to the public portion, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. When we return, we'll open it to the public. We're going to ask that council and the applicant sit to the side. The public will come up. If there's any questions, the questions are going to be directed toward this board, myself, and we will relay it from there, even though we're all in the same room. Okay? So we're going to take 5 minutes, and then we'll be back in session.
Back up.
We returned. You can sit back in the first row. That's fine. Take their seats, please. I need to know where Mr. Jaffe is. So-
Day and night.
Day and night. Okay, counsel, I think your testimony is rested at this point. You gave all your documentation to us on the board. At this point, I understand that some residents in the public have an attorney. I'm going to ask that attorney to come forward.
Otherwise,
We're just missing one individual. Can you guys just check in the hallway if Mr. Jaffe's available, please? Okay, we're all here. Counsel, if you're gonna speak, I'm gonna ask you to grab the mic, please. I guess you could start your opening statement.
Yes, good evening, David Lonsky from the law firm of Shammy, Shivers and Lonsky in East Brunswick on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Buffalino, who own the property directly across the street from the subject. For the record, they live at 220 Old Forge Road. And I wanted to at least let the board know that we do have a planner here that we intend to call to testify at the appropriate time. I have a few items of cross-examination that I would like to address with the three witnesses that already presented. And my client also would like to testify at the public portion.
Okay, so we're gonna hold your client off for a time being. Is there anyone else in the public that wishes to be heard on this applicant who's not being represented by the attorney? Right? Are you just representing Mr. Buffalino? Is that what am I understanding?
Mr. and Mrs. Buffalino.
Okay, so anyone who's not being represented by the attorney, please come forward as a public member, and you're allowed to say your piece, please. We're gonna go one at a time, so come on up here, sit down, and you'll be next, sir. We're gonna get the attorney just to ask you a few things before you get started, okay?
Sure.
if I could just have you raise your right hand, we'll swear you in real quick. That way, if you're going to make any statements, we have those under oath. Do you swear any testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record, please.
Heather Corona, Corona, at 225 Old Forge Road.
I'm going to assume you received notice of what was taking place here. You're within 200 feet?
That's correct. I'm the direct neighbor, 7 feet away from Garage B.
Okay. You have the floor.
I'd first like to start off highlighting the fact that this party is continuously saying that the business has been operating this way for the past 20 plus years, which is against land use, okay, and not been compliant with land use. And it's also been brought to my attention that they've been provided cease and desist as well as zoning summonses, knowing that when this business was purchased a year ago, that a business was running against the proposed R60 zoning. Prior to my family moving to this Monroe home almost 8 years ago, I've lived in Monroe for 20 years. I lived for 12 years on Fernhead Avenue, which is a small ranch neighborhood in Mill Lake Manor. And we bought that house because that was a house we could afford at the time, knowing that in that area there were businesses. There was especially For You Florist. There used to be the old Monroe Electric, now turned chiropractor. And when we bought this house 8 years ago, I was notified 2 days before closing that 223 Old Forge Road was encroaching on our property, 16 feet by 200 feet, which is the entire length of the garage. That include a paved driveway, granite curb block, and decorative stone. Additionally, there was storage of mulch, and much of the rear yard against Garibaldi Ave had disturbed landscape. I met with the zoning officer in May of 2016. At the time, it was Sal Profacci. We reviewed all of the surveys, and I was assured that my property, as well as the neighbors, were zoned R60. They were residential properties. They did not fit the bill for commercial use though I did show our survey from our attorney and our survey officer that showed that a landscaping business was running there against compliance. What I had planned to mainly speak about were my annotations on that Crest Engineering Associates planning argument for use variance dated April 12th, which I pulled everything from the website that was loaded. To let everyone know who does not know this area, this is being a proposed business of an astronomical amount of trucks, and to get into further details about how it affects my property, in $1 million neighborhood. So the homes directly next to this and across the street have sold and are valued for between over $700,000 to over $1 million. And if you're unaware of that, that will give you a taste of what the neighbors are feeling by approving a commercial business to be located next to us. The document notes that the garages are a permitted accessory use in this zone. However, the garage was placed 7 feet from my property line. This certainly wasn't permitted to be 7 feet from the property line and still is not permitted, as indicated in the notes that you have. Our property and where we live, the neighbors, is strictly residential for as far as the eye can see. There is no commercial business here. As such, would not exist in a mile away from our house. We're in a $1 million neighborhood. The document also states that the occupant does operate the business, the occupant of the home. That is correct as of now, but the house was previously rented, and that could change as someone else, if this were to be granted, which hopefully it is not, to have a business operating where someone is not living there. Additionally, the document states the proposal is nearly the same as a home occupation, as you saw in the Crest paperwork, except that there are 3 buildings instead of 1, and I'm quoting that. However, as you can see, the allowable was 30%, and 60% of this property is covered in buildings, driveways, and garages. Along with that, whenever there is a heavy rain, our side yard, our backwoods, and our landscaping are disturbed because of all of the blacktop. Once again, this garage is situated 7 feet from my property line. Whereas the document states that there is significant buffering, the trees were planted that are being spoken of on my property line, because the 7 feet from the garage to my property line is blacktop. So we were approached, we were told that they were asked to plant trees on our property to buffer their garage. Those trees are on my property line, as I've indicated. The document states that the property has been used in this manner for a significant number of years. For the last 8 years, and since we've moved in, we have brought this up to the township zoning officers, at the time, Sal Profaci, along with Chris Bevins, who are the people who informed me of these cease and desist and zoning summons, and people who told me that that was not zoned for that use, but still knew that it was going on. So it's very frustrating to hear that this has been going on for 20 years, when for the 8 years that we've lived there, that's been a problem for us. Continuing on, where the document states that the proposal will not have a substantial detriment is really a brazen remark, and the direct neighbors that are here today really says otherwise. Whereas the document states that noise is generally low, and in the winter, the residents, which is myself and my neighbors, will hear the snow plows at 223, along with the local snow plows, is incorrect. As you've heard the testimony from Mr. Gravina, Collins does not only serve Monroe, this also serves shore properties. It may not be snowing here when it is snowing there. And he said himself that the plows can be operating at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, depending on when it snows. The fact that we've heard that some employees carpool is a direct statement that will tell you that if people are having to carpool to this work for various reasons, they're not able to park a snowplow at their residence. And from the time we've been there, that hasn't been the case. Additionally, there are 15 employees We have many pictures that will be shown where there are more than 5 cars being parked on the property. The sounds of the gravel crunching as the employees are driving in and leaving at the end of the day, getting dropped off at carpools or carpooled by their family, the car door slamming, the lights coming up the back of my property, and it hasn't been mentioned, the porta-john on the property and that door slamming. I also had, of course, the beeping of the plows, the lights, the sounds of the plows are a major disturbance. The fact that the porta-john hasn't been mentioned is a problem. As we said, there were no deliveries. That porta-john is serviced, that door is slamming, and as I've reported to the township with no response, when that porta-john is in use, the back of our property has been used as a restroom. Granting a zoning variance is a detriment to our neighborhood and our property values. There is absolutely no benefit to the residents of Monroe by putting a commercial landscaping business in $1 million neighborhood. Unknown workers have clear visibility to the back of my property. I have 2 children. I have an in-ground pool. As you come up the property, my entire property can be seen from Garibaldi Avenue. When we purchased our home, we were told that that was not a road that was to be accessed, and that was for township officials as needed, including winterizing that retention basin. We bought our home to improve the quality of our family's life, and we have significantly improved it over the years to make it perfect for us. As I mentioned, we've lived in Monroe for 20 years, and I'm a teacher here at Oak Tree School. I teach 2nd grade. I would never tell my students that after doing something wrong for 20 years, that they are going to be rewarded in the end. I was going to ask at this time to please protect our family and our investment. That's what we're counting on the board to do today. But I did take some notes during the testimony that I wanted to address. One of them is that if Garibaldi is not traveled by the general public, as Crest represented today, then why does the business get to use that? Next, businesses benefit Monroe when they're in business zoned areas. They don't benefit Monroe traveling on unpaved roads, with dust, with gravel, with the pollution of the trucks. All of that's kicked up on a daily basis, not to mention the noise. And you've heard yourself about the exhausting amount of equipment that is being kept on a property right next to mine. While right now, next to the back of my property shows some trees, and I do have paperwork that I'm happy to show you where it shows different views for you. If I wanted to improve that back of my property, put in a basketball court for my young son, as I mentioned, that garage and those 5 parking spaces are 7 feet from my property line. That is completely unsafe. In addition, that Garibaldi Ave, I don't know if everyone here is familiar with that, but to say that that's being maintained, it's a stone and dust road, and that's what's being traveled on by the plows and by the workers every day. The plows do exit with the employees. The plows are kept at the residence. We have many pictures that can show that. Restating that there are 9 trucks on the property, not to mention everything else in this neighborhood, is unacceptable. There are many other, we're not asking to close a business, but this business should not be operating in this neighborhood. I did have a few other things, thank you. And our planner bringing up this site variance and that this is for this site and this particular business, and showing that this can evolve over time is just completely unacceptable to me, to fathom that purchasing this house and what are the changes going to be and all of the unknowns. It's just not acceptable for our family. And I really feel this is getting out of hand to ask for 13 different variances to be made, whether this business was existing or not. As you all know, this was existing out of compliance. Once again, to mention the quoted significant buffering, it is impossible to buffer anymore when there's pavement there. So is someone implying that they're going to be buffering on my property? That makes no sense. as well as reasonable screening that can't be done on blacktop. Let's see. I really thought it was reaching to compare a commercial landscaping business to a farm. So I do resent that comment. As well as, this is so much more than a visual impact. So while Crest and the representatives were discussing what can be seen from our property, it's so much more than what could be seen from our property. It's what others can see onto my property. It's the dust that's kicked up onto my property. It's the gravel. It's the snow plows, the lights, the sounds, and the complete lack of privacy that granting a commercial business in the middle of a residential property will provide my family. This does not enhance the quality of life in Monroe Township, so I do resent that comment being made. The quality of life in Monroe Township is for the residents who live here. We do not make money having our property here. We purchased our property, we've invested in it. As I mentioned, we've lived here for 20 years, and I give back to my community by teaching here, and I certainly feel that this is taking advantage. So I would like to say that this is an active commercial business that's been operating illegally for over 20 years. And instead of granting that to someone today, I ask that you grant the peace to the neighbors who live here and who plan to live here and who have invested their entire lives into this beautiful community and into its schools. Thank you for offering to protect my family and my investment. I do have some photographs, if I may pass to the end and let you pass it
You
down.
just hand them up here, please.
Are these multiple copies of the same thing?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so these just, if you can hang out for 1 second, these are,
Oh, the first, I'm sorry, there was one last thing I didn't mention.
so we've got 3 aerial photos that you've taken off of like Google Earth or something like that?
Yeah, some of them, they're also taken from a landscaping website that landscapers use to mark their property to just determine what the cost would be for cutting it. You could see, the one thing I wanted to mention, there's a picture of the mulch being stored on the property, and I, for some reason, missed that. But what I wanted to say
That's
is...
the first picture in the package?
The first shows the mulch being stored. I have a little note there.
Okay, can you bring that mic up and just confirm, just to show us, please? So when we pass it out, we would understand.
No. That's the mulch.
So the first picture shows the mulch being stored. I know Mr. Garina had said that.
Stop for 1 second. We have
The council will take-
who's going to come up and, yeah. Yeah, we're going to mark these 01.
You know what? Let your client have that, please.
This is 01. It's 3 pages.
Okay, so
As Mr. Garina mentioned, he has not been storing mulch there since applying for this variance. However, also to note, in the second picture, when we purchased our house, our property was being encroached on by that 16 feet. So it feels like whenever something is brought to the attention, the only time that was ever rectified is when Mr. Gravina wanted to turn this legally into a commercial business. You could see the mulch being stored there. While that was a while ago, I do want to make it known that it is stored there. There is dumping going on at the end of the day. I had asked about providing video, but was told that we were not able to do that today. And Mr. Gravina did attest that some things were dumped and then later brought out. Those things are actually dumped on the back of my property, because the back of my property, you can see clearly there's a big space to do that. There is no space to dump on the back of Mr. Gravina's property. That's where everyone is parking. You can clearly see there that there are way more than 5 cars parked there, and we have other pictures that show the snow plows there as well.
you can sit down and talk.
Okay. So while mulch is not currently being stored there, it's still, it was. The second picture shows the encroachment on our property of the driveway. The original owner had intended to purchase our property before we purchased it, And so they started encroaching on our property, dumping big piles in the back of our woods, which can be visibly seen from our property. And because that's why they had extended the driveway, so they could have 2 accesses to the driveway. Later on, when the people who we purchased the house from had lived very long lives, so they could not wait to purchase the property, as these elderly people had passed away in their very late 90s. So at that point, our property had been encroached on. And when we purchased it, it wasn't corrected, but it was recently. That driveway was dug up. The block was put directly on our property line. And as I mentioned, the plantings are on our property. And then the third page shows the plantings that are on our property. And you can clearly see that they are not on the 7 feet of driveway that is in between our property. Thank you again for understanding our plea to you to keep our neighborhood residential.
Thank you. You can just leave that mic. Just watch that mic. Watch that mic. Mic check. Mic check. Good. Thanks. Counsel?
Yes, movement again.
Wait, were you were, this is not a court. You gave your testimony as a regular layperson. You're not a professional. Let them have their say. The board can make their own decisions as to what's going to take place and how we'll proceed. It's no disrespect to you, but we're not in litigation here. You came up as a resident. You expressed your concerns. They can respond, and that's where we're going to end it. Someone else who may piggyback on a question that, you know, they may have presented, they can do so, who hasn't spoken, but we want to give them a chance, okay?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Greener, first of all, when did you buy the business?
I purchased the business in 2019.
So 4 years ago.
Yes.
You worked there before that. Okay. Could you please take a look at these pictures, starting with the first one, and explain?
The first one with the mulch, you see mulch there. I can't tell if it's a pile of mulch, but there is residue from mulch being there over the years. Just for years, Bob Collins kept mulch there. So there is residue. It looks like a mulch bed, a landscape bed, whatever. There's residual mulch laying around. I don't keep mulch there. Since I bought the business, I have not to keep mulch there. There has been times we've dumped behind her property. Most of the time it's on township property, if you want to be technical, not their property.
Dumping what?
When I had said I had a half full loaded truck, the guys would dump some of the brush. If they needed that truck that day, they'd go back and pick it up. As far as the encroaching on her property, when I bought the business, the first thing I did was remove that area that was encroached on her property and put it back to the way it was. Her and Bob Collins had some deal going on that he'd get down to work something out eventually. That's what they discussed when she first bought the property. But once I bought the property, I put it back to the way it was. It kept separate the property line. As far as the trees being planted on her property, I asked them. I said I would like to plant trees, give you a barrier, because the reason I noticed that, because I was at their house one day at a party. And as I was sitting in the backyard talking to them, I noticed my building, and I saw everything from their backyard. So I went ahead and put those trees in and asked if we could put them down the side of the property. They wanted me to extend them down the side of the property, because originally it was only going to be from the corner of the building to the front. It wasn't going to go down past the side of the property.
So you had a mutual agreement?
Yes.
Do you have anything in writing
No,
pertaining to
I
that?
asked her and stuff like that. I do work for them all the time. I'm always doing work at their house and helping them out with favors and doing things for them. So when he asked me to make a pathway through the wood line to the Garibaldi so they could walk through the wood line and go to the park with their kids and stuff like that, I did that for them. So where this is all coming from, I'm sorry, but
Everyone's entitled to their opinion,
Yep.
so we can't exclude them. They are public. They live here as well as you do, so we have to entertain everything. That it, counsel, is with respect to these pictures and questioning?
No.
No? Or,
He's given his explanation.
okay, no, that's fine, but there's no more questions
No,
pertaining
we've
to
done
the,
that one.
yeah, I mean, there's other things that were said that I just
okay,
don't remember right now, so
thank
that's
you.
it.
Next person in the public. Gentleman right here was waiting.
You could just raise your right hand quickly for me. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the record.
Aaron Corona, Corona. I live at 225 Old Forge Road, Monroe Township.
Good?
Absolutely good. Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to mention before I read what I had previously written. On Garibaldi Avenue, not too long ago, there was a yellow gate that was installed. I believe it was by the township. So I just wanted to make sure that the board is aware of that. It's pretty much maybe between our properties, but it is a swing gate, so it can be opened and closed at will. So I did want to make the board aware that there is a gate there.
Okay.
So when our house was recently appraised, the appraiser informed that the value of our house came in significantly lower due to the appearance that our property was adjacent to another property that was operating a landscaping business. The appraiser stated that the numerous vehicles coming and going, appearance of trucks and equipment, and the oversized garages are not complementary to a residential area, thereby negatively impacting our home's value. I spent the last 7 years improving my property from the inside out, making significant investments that I hope would ultimately increase my property's value so that one day I can get a nice return on my investment in order to support my children's future. I do not want the zoning in my residential neighborhood to change and am therefore opposed to the proposed variance that we are discussing today. Furthermore, as a father, I have the responsibility to keep my home safe and private for my family's enjoyment. By changing the zoning in a residential neighborhood, you're introducing the opportunity for more people to be on a commercial property that wouldn't normally be there on a day-to-day basis on a residential property. With a young son and a teenage daughter regularly swimming and playing outside, I want to know who is on and around my property at all times. By allowing a commercial operation on the adjacent property, you're allowing numerous individuals to come and go, which can open the door to other problems as this property evolves and changes ownership over time. It's unfortunate that we're here tonight, but in closing, I'd like to ask to help protect my family's oasis that I've built and honor the township's commitment to safe residential neighborhoods.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the public wishing to be heard not represented by the attorney? Come forward, sir.
I can swear you in quickly. If you raise your right hand, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address for the
You can
record.
sit down. It's okay.
My name is Sharif Muhammad. I live at 224 Old Forge Road, right across the street. I came to attend the meeting and listen, but some of the things that were said I do not agree with. That the neighborhood is residential and commercial, which is not true. The residential has been only residential. There is no commercial whatsoever close by our houses. Changing that to have commercial included will really upset a lot of residents, will change the value of our houses, and will have individuals that coming and going that are not professional. This is not a professional business. This is a commercial business that has individuals, about 15 of them, that they don't belong to our neighborhood. This is what I wanted to, not to mention the trucks going and coming, obstructing traffic. We had mentioned many times coming through the neighborhood, and these trucks are backing up and coming forward again and again and again. This is not a commercial neighborhood. Granting the commercial value to this neighborhood, to this house, I don't think is the right thing to do, and I completely object and disagree with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else from the public not represented by the attorney? Please come forward. Okay, seeing there's no one from the public who's not represented by the attorney, we're going to close that portion of the public. We are now going to open it to the attorney who's representing the Buffalinos, if I'm not mistaken? That's correct. So everyone had an opportunity to speak. Now the attorney will deal with his client.
I'm going to call Mr. Buffalino, let him testify.
Sure. If you could raise your right hand, Mr. Buffalino, do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Perfect.
And your address, sir?
220 Old Forge Road, Monroe Township.
Okay.
I live right across the street from the applicant. I live in this house for more than 33 years.
Okay,
Unfortunately,
let your attorney take it over from
Okay.
there. That's who's representing you. Let him do his job.
Mr. Buffalino, how long have you lived in your house?
33 years.
And are you familiar with the property in question, the applicant's property?
Yes.
Counsel, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you pull that mic closer to you so everything's on recording?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that better? Yep. And-
Yeah, as soon as this screen wakes up, I'll see if we're picking you up. All right, we're good. Go ahead.
It's okay. And can you describe what you observed of the uses of the property across the street over the years?
Lately, it's been a lot of trucks go in and out, a lot of dust, a lot of noise, a lot of banging. I do this kind of business for 25 years, and I have my own place in East Brunswick. I don't want this in this area. I'm against, and it's noise all kind of night, early in the morning, lights go into the house, in and out, and I'm against.
So, Mr. Buffalino, you mentioned that you have a similar business that you own?
Yes, I've been doing this kind of work since 1987. I started my own business, and I purchased the property in East Brunswick and the operator East Brunswick because I think it's very unfair to run this kind of business when it's like $1 million zone. People put a lot of money into the house, like myself, and they deserve the properties, and they deserve privacy.
So the business he runs is similar to what?
Correct.
What business do you have?
Landscaping and nursery business. So I know exactly what I'm going against to. I got employees, I got trucks, I got machines, so I know exactly what it's all about.
And you operate your business out of a
East
commercial,
Brunswick.
a commercial
Correct.
site for that reason, because you don't want it to interfere with residential.
Correct.
I have nothing further from Mr. Buffalino.
That's it. You mentioned you have a planner? Or?
I do.
Okay, so at that point, if you're done with your client, please bring your planner up.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Do you swear the testimony you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
If you could state your name, spell your last name, and give us your address, please, for the record.
Richard DiFalco, DIFOLCO, 49 Namoco Road, Freehold Township.
And Mr. DeFalco, can you give the board the benefit of your experience, education?
Yes, I graduated Rutgers University, 1973. Licensed professional engineer and planner. Engineer since 77, planner since 81. I own my own company, JKR Engineering, out of Freehold. And
We'll accept your credentials.
Thank you, sir.
Continue, counsel.
Yes. And were you retained by the Buffalinos to provide planning testimony this evening?
Yes, I
With
was.
respect to this application?
Yes.
And did you have an opportunity to review the property and review the application?
Yes, I visited the site. I reviewed the plans that are on file with the zoning board secretary, and I read the reports of the planner, engineer, and of Crest Engineering.
And you were here this evening and heard the testimony of
Heard
the applicant?
testimony, yes.
As well as the objectors, correct?
That's correct.
And I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
From a distance, when you have a use that is not permitted in the zone, you say, why is it there? And when you try to justify it, it becomes difficult when the obvious issues, noise and dust, lack of buffers, lack of parking, means that the site is not suitable for the intended use. Yeah, the board can grant variances. No buffers. Okay, no buffers. Less parking. No pavement. No stormwater management. All those things mean that there's a problem with the site being suitable for the use. If it was a bigger site, if it was properly buffered, and if it was properly aligned with a paved road for proper access, maybe. But where it is, and it evolved over time, according to what I spoke to one of the residents who spoke, this was never approved by any board or any permit. It was purchased as if it was an approval, but it never received a zoning permit or a zoning variance from anybody at the township. So this is not an existing use. It's an existing violation is what it is. The goals and objectives of the master plan are pretty specific. To number one goal in the 2022 master plan, to achieve a balance of land use types that maintain and enhance the quality of life. I don't see this project enhancing anybody's quality of life. Maybe the owner of the business, but not of the neighborhood, not of the area surrounding it. And then number 3, which was also mentioned by the planner, it says to encourage appropriate commercial development in areas of population concentration. This is not an area of population concentration, just the opposite. This is a sparsely populated R60 zone. And where existing infrastructure can accommodate it. There is no infrastructure, there's no paved road. So I don't believe that's a goal that was fulfilled by this, according to the planner's testimony. And this is not an inherently serving the use, is not serving the public good, rather. Commercial uses may be said to promote general welfare in the sense that they are desirable to the applicant and may be attractive, provide jobs and services, but the uses do not inherently serve the public good. And the applicant did not prove that the actual use and the site is suited for this specific use on this property. I don't believe there's sufficient buffers and setbacks and parking. And I've got some photographs which I can bring up to and show you. Recent photographs from 2023 that show many more vehicles than were, reported to by the professionals. It also shows, in the photograph, it shows the cleaning of trucks and washing down trucks and the water running across the street to the detention basin. I don't think that was envisioned.
Do you have those photos?
I do. Yeah, they're in my briefcase. Read those.
Yeah.
Please provide the applicant with one of each photos, please.
We're going to mark this O2.
We'll call these O2, yeah. So O2 and then as many as we go after.
I'll mark that.
You have 3 different ones.
O2.
This is O2? O2. That's O2. Smaller O2.
Okay, we'll let the board see these. We're limited here, so we're gonna let council look at them first. We're gonna let Mika and Mark look at them, and then everyone will get to see them, okay?
And just for the record, who took these photos?
These were actually screenshots from a picture service that I have called Near Map, which is photographs of Jersey every 3 months.
Okay, do we know when these were taken?
Taken in March of 2023.
March 2023.
Actually, that's number 02.
0203.
02 was from March of 2023. 03 was a Google Street View.
Okay.
It showed carefully.
Okay. Guys, when you're done with this, please pass this back. We need this. We're gonna get it to that side. We need all these pictures back because there's very limited copies.
So just briefly, O2 shows the aerial view. It shows vehicles parked in front of the garage, behind the garage, trucks being cleaned in the garage, in the driveway, and then additional trucks and vehicles being parked on this Garibaldi side of the other garage with the opening. So 5 cars looks like a light number when you look at what's being used in March. More than 5 cars on the site.
Does that photo also depict the outdoor?
Mike, counsel, you have to use the mic. Microphone.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
And does that photo 02 also depict the outdoor storage of the snow plows, the equipment?
Yes, there are a half dozen plows visible in the photograph. And you could also see the landscape buffer that is planted on the 7-foot side yard setback side of the building. That landscape buffer is on the property of neighbor, not on the property of the applicant.
Excuse me, can you just check to make sure if that mic is on?
That one that's
Well, use the one on the table. There you go. Get nice and close so everyone can hear.
Okay, I'm sorry. So the photo shows the landscape buffer, which is on the neighboring property, not on the property of the applicant. And in my opinion, that buffer is not a sufficient size or width to screen or buffer the noise and the view of the building and the trucks. And the fact that there's a gravel road in the back, which is accessed every day for this operation, there's a tremendous amount of noise and dust coming from the trucks driving over the gravel road. There's also a porta potty on the site. There was no mention as to providing sanitary facilities for any of the workers. So apparently there's just a porta potty, and that's what's been going on since, that's been there more than 10 years, I think, that porta potty. So the porta potty is on the site serving the operation of the 15 employees. And I don't think that is a proper way to handle sanitary waste on a long-term basis. It might be great for a job site when you're fixing something for 1 or 2 days, but for 15 or so years, that's been in place, and it's not the right way to do it. This is a septic area, and it would probably involve building a new septic field somewhere. And based on the amount of impervious coverage here, I don't know whether there's room for a septic system that would meet the setback requirements of the regulations. It was also mentioned that the back third of the property is where the proposed commercial use would be. And if you look at the aerial photograph, that back third is almost 100% impervious. So while the average, when you take in the front yard of the residential, drops to 60%, if you're talking about a use, that use is occupying about 100% impervious coverage with not one drop of drainage or storage or infiltration. So the neighbor to the north gets flooded whenever it rains. So, in my opinion, that the site is not suitable for the use. It does not comply with the master plan goals. And I don't think that the board should vote favorably on the application.
Does that conclude your testimony?
I believe that would be a question.
Counsel, you're okay with who you brought up and who you had speak, correct?
I am.
Okay.
Just had a couple of questions for some of the professionals that were.
Okay, so we're going to ask your professional to sit down. We're going to shift you over. We're going to bring them up so there could be a minimal dialogue. Again, this is not court, where we're just trying to work this out as best as we can. So who are you going to direct your question to? I would assume you go through their counsel and,
The engineer first.
okay, so. Counsel, I would recommend you grab that mic, make sure it's on. So while your client is sitting there, if you have an objection, by all means.
So I just want to address some of the typical items in a site plan for a commercial use of property that were not addressed in the paperwork that you submitted, and the documents you submitted.
Yes.
Did you do any analysis of stormwater flow?
No, we have not.
But that would typically be done in a commercial application, wouldn't it?
Yes, if it is a formal application which requires a design and justification of stormwater is needed. Yeah,
Right.
you start with
And while, would you typically do a site plan for a commercial property that included garbage receptacles and recycling area?
yes, you do.
And there is no such thing in this application, correct?
Yes, as the applicant has provided testimony that there is no generation of the waste, whatever happens off-site, they directly dispose before employees coming back
Is
to site.
there an office use proposed for the facility, for one of the properties, one of the buildings?
I would like to defer that question to the applicant.
If there is an office use of one of the existing buildings, would you agree that there should be
Yeah.
provision for the removal of
Right,
garbage and
if that-
recyclings?
Counsel, hold up 1 second, please. Can you approach the bench, please, counsel?
Boy, you're amazing.
But you,
Where's the bench?
I'm sorry, just come on up. So, sorry you late you this long, I have a feeling. So, we'll hold them off for a second. We'll make that announcement. I don't want to start the application and then carry it because we don't have a meeting. That okay?
30?
Well, unfortunately.
30.
So, I'm gonna have an attorney. Okay, so I'm gonna have to,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen, okay? Yep.
Yeah, so, ladies and gentlemen, this application seems to be taking the bulk of the meeting tonight. The other application on the agenda for this evening was BA 5209-21, Lucille Di Pasquale and Michael Di Pasquale. Unfortunately, that matter will not be capable of being heard this evening, and it's going to be carried to the board's January 30th, 2024 meeting at 6:30 p.m. in this room. The applicant will not be required to mail and republish notices of that application. So this is your notice now that that application will be heard on January 30th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. in this room.
We apologize for any inconvenience. Just give them a minute to clear the room so we limit the noise.
Chairman, board members, have a good night.
Thank you, sorry. Okay, I think the majority of them cleared out. Let's, we can resume, please. Thank you, sorry.
Chairman, one last question. If there are any objectors who wish to talk to me out in the hall, I'd be glad to talk.
I think they all, I think they followed you out.
Jason.
They're waiting for you.
They left.
Okay, counsel, please continue.
Thank you. Have you provided testimony or been involved in drafting of site plan application for any commercial applications where there were no permanent bathroom facilities proposed?
No, I have not.
Never, right? And it's your understanding that Garibaldi, the road to the rear of the property, that is a paper street, is that correct?
That is correct. It's not improved.
And are you aware of whether or not the township installed a fence across the rear of the property? Across the roadway, excuse me.
There is a fence that has the detention basin. You're talking about the perimeter of that detention basin.
No, I'm talking about that crosses Garibaldi Road to prevent traffic from accessing Garibaldi.
No, I'm not aware of it.
When was the last time you were at the site?
Actually, my partner has been on the site a couple of weeks ago.
When was the last time you were on the site?
I have not been on the site.
I have nothing further.
Counsel, I don't know if there's any rebuttal. I
I'm
think
sorry.
some kind of general questions.
I don't have any questions for this. We would like to do some rebuttal on the.
Okay, we'll get to that in a second. You just have one more comment?
I know I had some questions for the planner,
Oh, okay.
the applicant's planner.
Okay, Mr. Patel, thank you very much.
Sit there.
No, Mark can come up.
Oh, Mark, okay.
Mark's been in that seat many times.
Want to run over your toes.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well.
Good. I just have a few questions for you on your planning testimony. Would you agree that the property could be used as a single-family residential property?
Anything is possible.
Well, isn't it in fact used as a single-family residential property?
Part of it is, yes.
And the uses that are not residential to the rear of the property are not allowed in the zone and have not been previously approved, correct?
They're not permitted. That's why we're here tonight.
But they, even though they exist, they are not and have not been lawfully permitted, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
So all of your planning testimony that used as a basis the fact that the use is existing and has existed for a number of years is based upon a use that's not permitted and illegal, correct?
Well, not all. You used the word all, and I did not use all of that as the basis. I touched on that was one of the factors. We talked about the fact that it has a double frontage road, and there's a separation of traffic that the site allows for that. But I did talk about the fact that the property had been used for this commercial use for over 20, maybe 25 years. That's correct.
And are you familiar with the fact that the township has installed a gate to block access on Garibaldi through a swinging gate?
Well, I heard testimony that there's a gate. I saw the gate. It was open. It was not closed. So having an open gate does not prohibit access.
But it would be up to the township to determine whether or not they wanted to close the gate, correct?
Well, I can't speak for the township.
But they could, couldn't they?
I would imagine they could do anything they wanted to on Garibaldi because it's their right of way.
You testified in describing the positive criteria. I think with respect to that the use, the proposed commercial use of the property, presented a desirable visual environment. Is that correct?
Yes.
And does your desirable visual environment include the dust, the noise that's being generated from trucks traveling over gravel, dust that accumulates on neighbors' property? Is that part of the desirable visual environment that you were referring to?
Well, noise and dust have nothing to do with visual. Visual means appearance. Noise is an energy, which is not visual. Dust is a particulate that goes into the air. It's not a visual environment.
But you did also testify that it promotes the health and morals of the general welfare of the community, correct?
Well, we heard that there's noise and dust. I'm unsure whether it's been factual. We heard people testify. We heard them say that. I'm not saying that it doesn't occur, and I'm not saying it does occur. It's just that I'm unsure whether there's real hard evidence of that. So, in my opinion, my testimony stands of what I said earlier.
And you then also testified that the property was particularly suited for the commercial use?
For the two uses, yes.
And you're aware that the property's in a septic area, correct?
They're served by septic systems, yes.
Right. There's no sanitary sewer on the property, correct?
I don't believe there is.
And you heard the neighbors come up and complain about the commercial uses on the property, didn't you?
I heard them complain.
If you believed that what they were complaining about and what they were describing accurately reflected the operation of the business, would you change your opinion as to whether or not the property was particularly suited and met the positive and
That's
negative criteria?
hypothetical, and I won't render an opinion on
You're
that.
an expert, aren't you?
That's hypothetical, and I won't render opinion on that.
I believe that an expert is charged with the responsibility of answering hypotheticals.
I stand with my position.
I would ask that he be directed to answer the question. He is an
I
expert.
don't think we can direct anybody at this point.
Yeah, this isn't
I think
a court, so.
I know what it is.
Me too.
So
I know it is.
we can all assume, or we can.
I think the inference is out there, Mr. Lonsky.
Thank you.
So please continue.
So in this case, what you're opining is that two principal uses are appropriate for this property, correct?
That's correct.
And if this board were to grant that application, that would mean that the property owner could lease the front property to someone other than the user of the commercial property, correct?
I don't know that to be correct or not.
Well, it's two separate principal uses, correct?
We haven't established that fact. You're bringing it up now, so I really don't know.
Well, isn't it your testimony that it's that one of the reasons that a D1 variance is required is because you're creating two principal uses of the property?
Yes, right now we have, the current application is for the owner-occupied single-family home, which is what we have here, right? Mr.
You tell me, because that's not the way I read it.
Okay, well then, we have the owner of the property reside, and owner of the business resides in that house. Is
That's
that correct?
Or,
Is that
this
correct?
is not an application. Well, first of all, I'm not going to answer your questions.
Okay. good.
Secondly, the proposed application that you opined upon, and you gave your opinion that it was appropriate for a D1 variance
Correct.
to create two principal uses of the property, one of which is a commercial use. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so, is it your understanding that if the application, strike that, the overall lot size of the property, about 66,000 square feet, correct?
That's approximately,
Slightly larger than what the zone requires for a single use, correct?
correct.
And it's your testimony that that property still is particularly suited for two uses, two principal uses, correct?
This particular property, yes.
You're aware that there's, as was testified, I believe by you also, that there's no other commercial uses or dual uses, dual principal uses of any property in the surrounding area, correct?
I did talk about the surrounding properties, and I gave the existing land uses.
And they were residential, correct?
3 were residential and 1 was stormwater management basin.
For residential development, correct?
For a larger residential development. But the particular use is not residential. That particular use is stormwater management basin.
And there's no lot that you're aware of that has two principal uses on it in the surrounding area, correct?
Not for the properties that I described.
And those were the properties in the surrounding area, correct?
Well, surrounding area could extend farther away, or it could be the adjoining properties, which is what I talked about.
Well, within 500 feet of the property, are you familiar with whether or not there's any other commercial uses?
I only testify to the adjoining uses.
So you're not suggesting that the board should consider then any other properties that might have dual principal purposes or non-residential uses in determining whether or not this property, the variance relief should be granted?
I don't think that's part of my testimony.
Just want to make sure. I have nothing further.
Thank you. Thank you.
Counsel for the, you're done with all your, okay.
I am.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to close the public portion at this point. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public portion is now closed. Counsel, you can come up. We're going to reference the pitches that were distributed.
Yes.
Maybe.
Mr. Green, you see the pictures in front of you?
Yes,
And just recall you're again still on the road.
yes.
Okay, now, unlike perhaps the person who took the picture, you actually understand that property, right? What's
Yes,
there?
of course.
Okay, now you're going to have to explain this to the board and show it to them. Okay, I believe there's been a charge made that there's more than 5 cars there. Let's take a look at this. Can you tell the board how many cars are in this picture?
And 1, 2, 3,
Oh, two.
4, 5.
I'm
These
just,
are trucks. These are all trucks. That's a car, that's a car, that's a car, that's a Bobcat, that's an employee car, that's an employee car. That is my vehicle. So if there's 6, there might be 6 over here. It's over here mixed in with the shaded area, but there's 5 to 6 vehicles, like I said. Same thing in this picture here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles in this picture, employee vehicles.
Okay, there was a question about impervious covering. What do you have back here? What is all that?
That's all stone.
That's all stone. Is it permeable?
Yes.
Okay, so when the rain comes, the water goes right down in
Clean
there.
blue stone.
Okay, and There's a detention basin back here. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that must have been put in at some point to deal with any water flow, right? I assume.
Yes, I built Dynasty, they built everything.
Okay, so that's to deal with all these problems. Did you ever see a problem on this property with stormwater?
Yeah, I had a problem in the beginning. I always had a problem in the front of the property. Has nothing to do with the business, so if the business didn't exist here, the stormwater was still heavy.
Has nothing to do with your property either, does it?
Well, it comes off the Old Forge Road, runs down my driveway through the circle driveway I have in the front, and it runs towards the Corona's house. That's why I put the stone berm in to try to deviate it a little bit and slow it down for them. When I bought the business, I made every effort when I bought the business to improve the property around them. We were very friendly, we spent a lot of time, that's why there's a pathway, a stone pathway from my property to their property, so we go back and forth. So I helped them out, they never complained, I asked them all the time, oh, the guys had to start the machine this morning, did it bother you? Oh, we don't hear anything, we don't hear anything, they tell me this all the time. So all the noise they hear, I don't know where it's coming from, because they never sent to me. We spent holidays together and dinners together plenty of times.
Let me ask.
Dust and the travel and the noise that they're talking about, I mean, it's 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. There's no daily traffic. I told you, if there's any work, right now we're working trucks, it's in season right now, so that's why the plows are outside, because either just brought them back or just took them out of the shop to set them off for the winter. I don't know if this is in November or if this is the March, this picture. But that's why there's trucks and that's why there's washing going on, because we're preparing for the switch over to seasons.
Is there any other business in the area?
There's other business on Old Fort Road, East Coast Electric is down the road. They have a variance to run their business off the property. They have traffic coming in and out during the day. So there's a fencing company down the road. There's a construction company, Mortar Construction down the road. There's other. Old Forge Road is known. There's plenty of pole barns on Old Forge Road. There's plenty of businesses and contractors living on Old Forge Road. So Buffalino's got a nursery because they have a nursery. He can have his trucks at his house, because they've been at his house before. If he got his trucks at his house, they'd be at his house. But he has a nursery, so that's why he has to keep his landscape business run out of his nursery. I don't operate a nursery. I run a commercial landscape business. I got guys that come in the morning for 10, 15 minutes and come back at the end of the day. There's not a lot of noise. The one resident, I think he said he was at 224. He's been a resident of that house for 1 month. He bought that house a month or two ago. So he has no idea what goes on here because he hasn't been here long enough to know what goes on here. Was he influenced by other people? Yes.
Have anything else you want to add?
Porta John. The Porta John's there for in case somebody has to use the restroom in the morning. They come every Wednesday to clean it out, and they clean it. One of the cleanest Porta Johns you're ever going to see in the world. It's spotless. They don't even know why they come. Sometimes it's used, sometimes it's not used. It's not used all winter long, but I keep it there to make it convenient. Stormwater. Property line, I already said the bushes that are on the Corona's property line are in the front. We discussed that. We had an agreement in the beginning when I was putting them in and stuff. If they wanted me to put them in, I would have to put them on their property line. If I got to remove the blacktop to put more plants in, I could remove the blacktop to put more plants in. Park Avenue, Porta John. The gate that the township put in and stuff like that, I still use to open the gate in the morning when my guys get there, and we close the gate at the end of the day when we leave. We're the ones who open and close it. Township doesn't come by and open and close it. We open it and close it because they execute it, keep it closed, and we're not using the road. And that's.
They had no objection to you using it, though.
No, whoever I spoke to that day when they were installing the fence and stuff like that, they said to keep it closed, and when you're not using the property, keep it closed. Guys come in, they open it, you work for the day, at the end of the day, they close it behind themselves.
Did they tell you why they put it in?
They had to deter people from going down the road. People were removing the manholes from the manhole covers and messing it up and dumping down the road, so they were trying to defer the traffic. There's other contractors that use the road. There's no landscape company that's further down Old Fort Road, and he accesses to his property from this road also. Yeah, and I know they all spoke about their children and the safety of their children. I have 2 girls at home too. So safety of my children is more important. It's the most important thing. So I protect my family. They know, and we spend a lot of time together, so they know. When I fabricate things and say things, that's fine with me.
Okay, that's it?
As far as like, there's right now, yes.
Okay, that closed sentence.
That's it, counsel? No more testimony, everything is done, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I want to get our professionals in first, if they heard anything additional that they need to comment on, or make a statement? Mika, or anything? No? Mark?
Yeah. The porta-john. You have any bathrooms that you can install in one of these garage buildings and eliminate that porta-john?
No, I do not. I don't have plumbing in the buildings.
There's no plumbing in the building? I don't see it located on your site plan. Like to know where it is, how you're buffering it.
It's right on the, where's
If you can show us on a map.
If you look in the back of the property, the residential backyard, that little white roof right there, under the trees around us, back by the arborvitae, that's where the porta-johns kept. No one can see the porta-john unless they're in the porta-john. As far as the door slamming, it might happen once a day. I know when I go in and out of it daily, because I'm out there all day long, so.
As far as washing trucks, are you still washing trucks on the site?
We wash the trucks during this, yeah, of course.
That's a problem. So, truck washing on this I have a concern with that with stormwater management. If you want to set up a truck washing station out here, nothing's been proposed. That's something you'd have to have your engineer design and then propose that and get that permitted. If not, you'd have to take the trucks and off-site and have them washed elsewhere and brought back here.
All right.
So I would say if the board chose to approve this, certainly no truck washing on the site.
I agree to that.
We agree with that.
That's all I have right now.
Thank you. Okay, board, Mr. Lupo.
I have a lot of questions. I got one for our council. This is a hypothetical. Let me ask you a question. If this individual applicant never came before us and seeking what he's seeking now, he now owns that property close to 5 years, what would change?
Not sure I understand the question. If he never did anything,
No, like in other words, he's just continued to keep working like he's working. He didn't come before us seeking what he's seeking now. What would change? Nothing. His business would continue, right?
I can't speak. There's been some testimony regarding violation notices that he's received, so I don't know if that was the impetus for him coming here.
Okay.
So, nothing would change unless someone told him to stop doing it. So, I mean, clearly it's been happening for 20 years, or at least that's what it sounds like, but
And that's my next question, counsel. That pole barn that the individual woman said was about 7 feet off her property, was that put up by the prior owner, Collins, or did you put that up?
Robert Collins installed that building in 2000, and it was permitted by the township, and the town just permits on, and township approved all the permits on the building and installation of the building.
So that's my next question. This individual was actually working for him. He bought the property. There should have been a survey. How is this guy in the wrong? It should have been, any of the problem should be on Mr. Collins then, right?
on whoever owns the property. So
But he's purchasing it, and it should have been clear, right?
if he purchased the property and he got a survey and that there was a question over whether or not it met a setback, that's.
Well, obviously, he said the building was approved, right?
I can say the building was approved. I don't know. I mean,
And then another question is,
what it is, if it was built in the wrong place or someone made a mistake, then someone needs to rectify that problem. And so that's either the township saying it can remain by some document that says we're not going to enforce our own ordinance, or alternatively they can get variance. But, you know,
okay. The individual woman who's a school teacher, she said she's been in Monroe for 20 years, is living at that property 8 years. But this property has been under the exact same type of business from the previous owner. Why would you buy that then? I know if I'm buying a piece of property, I'm looking at everything. I'm even going to the town and saying, hey, on the master plans, there's something down the road coming here. But they opted to buy that property. I don't know how long the individual who's sitting alongside of her, he's living there. And now it comes up where now there's a problem. So, there's a lot of questions here. And as far as dust is concerned, I'm sure this individual seems more than gracious working with the people, the neighbors. Something that's not hazardous or an oil can be maybe placed on that to minimize the dust. I'm sure he'll put trees and buffers around the porta potty. These things are certified. These are legitimate companies. There's a lot of questions here that I can see both sides, but I can also see this individual's point too. And then as a board, we have to look on both sides. And I wanted to get some technical answers from you because I'm not an attorney.
Sure.
But this is a decision that needs to be made, and everyone has to look at all sides. I hear our professionals. So I just want to thank you for filling me in, and thank you for your presentation. I don't have no more questions.
You done?
I'm done.
Are there any more questions from any board members?
There's,
Can we legally approve something that's in violation or has been in violation?
Legally approve it? Well, they're here for the approval, so yes. So
Okay.
to the extent that it was built and it needs a variance, they're allowed to come and seek the variance. And once you would grant the variance, it's no longer in violation of your zoning ordinance.
So, Mr. Tanzi, what you're referring to would be the pole barn? Is that what you're referring to?
Excuse me?
The pole barn being 7 feet off the property? What are you
The whole
referring?
operation from day one. That was there, for 20 years and was operating.
Well, as the attorney said,
It's a long time that it's been there. I agree.
As the
Okay,
attorney
but-
said, that's why we're here. That's why this application is before us. And this is a decision that needs to be made. And it's,
I mean, as I say, typically properties end up before you for one of two reasons. Either someone prospectively says, hey, I've got an idea on what I want to do on a property, or also sometimes someone does something on a property. It may not be a use, it may just be, I built a shed or a deck or I put a fence up and, oh, by the way, it's not where it's supposed to be. And typically, if you file your zoning application, it can stay there until you guys make a decision on whether it can stay or it needs to go. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
You got it.
any other questions from any board members? Okay, seeing there's none. Board members, we have an application before us. If anyone needs clarification on any variances, bulk variance, D1 variance, whatever it may be that may be incorporated with this approval or denial, please ask your questions now. We'll get them answered as best as we can, and then it needs to go to a vote. So if anyone has any questions with respect to what transpired tonight, now's the time to ask.
I'd like to know, with Mika, her requests for stipulations.
Use the mic, Carol, please.
Sorry. Any stipulations that you had for the applicant would be helpful, I think, to.
So a couple of things the applicant's experts did agree to provide us with was the building heights for the garages. They agreed to show us the landscaping that they would be proposing. They did testify that additional cypress and leland plantings would be provided. They have to show that to us. They also, one of the requests was about the number of parking spaces. I believe they're showing you 6 parking spaces, and that's something the board would agree to limit for this use to be only 6 parking spaces. Other than that, I think they agreed to provide whatever else additional comments were in our report. In terms of, yeah, those were the stipulations.
And if we decided to leave the gravel,
that was a concern, again, that I brought up in terms of the gravel area around the garage B, which is the south area where there will be, heavy equipment parked, if the board would like to see that area paved or remain as gravel.
Mark, is there anything else from your perspective that should be highlighted with what they're applying for or what needs to be addressed so the board would understand it?
I think Mika addressed most of the items, including our review letters, both our review letters. Also, no truck washing on the site. I think everything else was touched upon.
If I could just ask Mr. Razumowicz a question, I know the fence and the gate along the rear property line was something that you had requested. The applicant has asked for relief from that requirement. Do you have an opinion regarding that you could provide to the board in any action on this with respect to the application?
I might have missed that the applicant asked for
They did. They asked for the ability.
installing the gate.
Yeah, installing the gate and the fence.
My recommendation is to keep the fence and the gate. It keeps the trucks in. As we've seen in some of those pictures, the trucks crept off the property onto the right-of-way, Garibaldi, and the fence and the gate will keep all the vehicles and his operation within his property.
Got it. Thank you.
We agree to install the fence.
What about the fence that's on the road? I mean, have we approved them to open the gate and?
I don't think that's our jurisdiction to approve. That's a township thing, and it's not part of this application. Unfortunately, it's a gray area because it's a paper street. The township owns it, but it's not part of this application. So it's a fine line. We don't have that discretion to say yay or nay to the gate. Otherwise, if it was that, they wouldn't be here because the gate's closed. I don't know how that works, and that's not our jurisdiction. The only thing
The other item was they've agreed to provide the contribution for curb and sidewalks.
In lieu of the sidewalk.
In lieu of installing the curb and sidewalks.
Okay, any other questions, any clarification?
I'd like to address the number of cars on the property. You say you have 15 employees, but yet 5 cars. How do you reconcile that? Do your employees carpool?
My employees carpool. Not all of my employees have driver's license. So 4 or 5 of my guys have driver's license, and those are guys who drive into work every day.
Okay.
The rest of them just carpool. All my employees, except for 3, live in Perth Amboy. So they all come from the same town. They all come together.
Thank you.
You are.
Any other questions? Any other clarification? Seeing there's none, at this point, board members, we have a decision to make with respect to this application. If we're going to move forward and approve it under its current condition with the stipulations indicated by the professionals, or is it going to be denied? And if it's denied, we have to give reason why.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. And my grounds are, and I'm going to say, is that if I'm buying a piece of property and there is an existing business on there that is aggravating me, I'm not going to buy the property. These individuals clearly knew that establishment was a landscape establishment, and this individual worked for that person, and he's continuing to do the exact same thing other than the addition of one possibly vehicle, as he stated. And now it's an issue. So, I don't think the individual is doing anything wrong. He's trying to comply. He's doing the best he can. I'm approving this under the condition that the applicant is stipulated adheres to all our professionals' requests.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
I second.
Carol seconds it. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Damiani?
Yes.
Mr. Lupo?
Yes.
Mr. Tanzi?
No.
Mr. Jaffe?
Yes.
Mr. Birdie?
No.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Excuse us for a second. Okay, we're going to take a quick real recess. We're gonna go in a closed session.
We're not going to close
Oh,
session.
no.
We're not going to just have a discussion.
Okay.
You want to talk to me. Closed session means you're going to meet.
Okay, not meeting.
We have a
We're back in session.
Yeah, just for the record, this was a use variance application. The application required 5 affirmative votes.
Big gnomes, but I was wondering if we could poll the board and advise us what the reasons for voting were in that fashion.
I don't know that that's something that this board usually does, Mr. Councilman.
That's good.
Yeah, how much time before we...
What was that? I didn't hear. I can't hear.
So, I was wondering how much time he has before he has to move his business.
That's not this board's purview. That would be something that you should take up with the code enforcement officer.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yes. And so that's right. There's multiple subdivisions, of the property, and that's right. And but I said at a certain point in time.
Excuse me, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, can you guys take it out in the hallway? We still have some business to conduct. Sorry, thank you. Okay, The meeting's open to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to be heard on any particular topic or anything pertaining? No? I need a motion to close the public portion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any? Oh, sorry. Okay. Do we have, let's go back to memorialization. We need a memorialization on application BA-5232-23. Mr. Shrami Patel. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Carol? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
I abstain.
Andy and myself abstain. Good? Okay, so discussion items. We have to review and adopt a resolution for any and all additional litigation monies. So I'm going to assume you're going to take this over at this point?
I can take it over, but as you know, there is pending litigation that the board's currently involved with. At the beginning of the year, you authorized a certain amount of money to be used for that litigation. Unfortunately, that litigation has become very intensive and is currently on appeal. So this is just a resolution which would permit me to continue in providing my legal services in that litigation and also get paid for it. Which, yeah, I don't get paid. You gotta get paid. It's just, you know. It wasn't right.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to
Second.
approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Thanks, guys.
$1 more. Never heard, huh?
Hey, Christmas is coming.
Any correspondence?
Nope.
A motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Everyone, please enjoy your holiday. Be